Morning and welcome. Hi there. For those of you who I haven't met, I'm Kathleen Reardon. I'm the CEO of the New Hampshire Center for Nonprofits, and I am really pleased to welcome you all here today for our New Hampshire Gives Strategies for Success event. Really excited. In addition to us being, how many days from New Hampshire Gives? Just a short while away, right? So this great initiative. Today we're experimenting. We have this event that is in person and streaming live. So we hope you'll bear with us. We're hoping to engage the folks that are watching remotely in conversation, as well as you all here in the room. So we're going to be paying attention to some of the technical aspects of that and just ask you to bear with us in that. But we're excited to be able to be here together with you in person for the first time for New Hampshire Gives since before the pandemic. And what I love about New Hampshire Gives is this spirit of community that happens online through New Hampshire Gives, through the days leading up to it, and in events like these where you all get together and share your strategies as well as lift up the entire sector through these New Hampshire Gives. We have some thank yous, which include to Mr. Tom Raffio from Northeast Delta Dental, who will say a few words because they are, of course, very gracious hosts for this event today. So I'll hand it over to Tom.
Thanks, Kathleen. Kathleen and I go way back. You might not know this, but she was a banker once, and then she got religion, then with nonprofits. So anyway, I'm trying to brighten up your day. Okay with the orange hokas, tie? So I am honored to be here, and I'm so happy to hear that you're all going to be here and to get best practices on how to leverage New Hampshire Gives, which is about 40 days away. But I think also just the networking part of things is very important. If you don't know one of your colleagues here, get to know them. This room is available for nonprofits anytime, and Shane, who handles everything, you see him, he'll give you his business card. So if you have your own board that is trying to get off of virtual and in person, you can come here. There is no charge. My approach has always been I'd rather have the nonprofit invest money in their own initiative and not on hotel rents and things like that. So it's set. We have the best technology, and I'm just honored to be part of it. The nonprofit world in New Hampshire, you all know this, is really the backbone for human services and many things. And we really need you to be vibrant and work together and leverage efficiencies, but also remain passionate about your particular initiative. What people may not realize is that Delta Dental is actually a nonprofit ourselves, and that allowed us, for example, to invest about $1 million in veterans oral health care. Veterans in general can't get served at the VA because of federal guidelines. And also, and it's barely a break-even proposition, but getting the Medicaid dental benefits for adults. So like 90,000 adults who haven't been going to the dentist in years now can go to the dentist. But that is the important work that all nonprofits, whether you're small or large, you all have important roles, and we're all rowing in the same direction. Every nonprofit, in my judgment, and we give to just about all of you, is equally important, just different. So I want to thank Kathleen and Kelly for the opportunity to welcome you, and have a great day. Don't think about that it's beautiful outside. Try to leverage New Hampshire Gives. Thanks, Kathleen.
Thank you. So the other thank you that I wanted to give before I hand the mic over to Deborah is to ConcordTV, who is helping us with the live stream, providing both the cameras and their technical expertise leading up to this event. We definitely couldn't do it without them, and they are another great resource in our community for nonprofits. So now, without further ado, I'll introduce our Giving Day guru, Deborah Clark, and hand it over to you.
Thank you, Kathleen. This is really weird speaking into this Britney Spears mic as it's been introduced to me. So if you guys can all just picture Britney Spears, that would be great. welcome. It's so great to see so many faces that I don't know and some of you that I do know very well. New Hampshire Gives is my favorite thing, part of my job. I've been doing it for 9 years now, and I absolutely love the feeling that I get. So I just wanted to let you guys know a little bit about our team before we start. Obviously, I'm Deborah Clark. I'm the Director of Operations at the Center. I've been with the Center for 17 years. It's a little painful to say that. I've been doing New Hampshire Gives since 2016. Somehow it landed on my plate, and I'm so glad. My partner in crime for New Hampshire Gives is in the back of the room. That's Kelly Wing. She's been with me throughout all of this for, I believe, 7 years. You met Kathleen. She's our awesome CEO. And in the back of the room, we have Angelica Ladd, who's our new communications person. You're new if you've been here less than a year. She's getting close to not being new anymore. But she is on the live stream. So those of you that are on the live stream, you'll be chatting with her. So if you have questions, put them in the chat for Angelica, and she'll make sure that your questions get answered either by her or by us. And then for those of you who aren't aware, we're a really small team. That's the rest of our team. There's 7 of us. We have 5 full-time and 2 part-time. And some of you may know some of these people because Carrie Bean is the person that many of you connect with via email for a variety of things, including I can't log in, I need to do something with my membership and I can't figure it out. She's awesome. And Karen and Heather are both awesome as well. So the agenda today is pretty simple. I'm going to talk at you for a little while and probably bore you to tears, and then we're going to turn it over to some great panelists. We have some wonderful people here today who have a lot of experience with New Hampshire Gives and are totally willing to share all of that with you. Favorite thing about New Hampshire Gives is that sharing. From the very beginning, all the nonprofits that were successful were willing to just share everything that they did, and they knew that by sharing it would raise the whole day. So it's one of the things that I'm most happy about. We will have a networking lunch, and I have a special cake that has New Hampshire Gives on it. I'm just really excited about the cake. So hopefully everybody will have a piece. I don't want to take any home, let's be clear. So I will thank ConcordTV again. They were here at 8 o'clock this morning. They are consummate professionals and had this place set up for live streaming so quickly. We couldn't have done this without them. Other housekeeping, if you're in the room, to make sure that we have the best experience for our online people, if you have a question, raise your hand, and Kelly will be walking around with a microphone to get your question so that everybody can hear it. We're really trying to make sure that we are making this the best experience for everybody possible. If you're joining us online, like I said, use that chat feature. Angelica's there with you. She's awesome, and she'll make sure that your questions get answered. One favor, because we are broadcasting using Wi-Fi, if you are on the guest Wi-Fi here, we ask that you turn it off. It can slow down the speed of the live stream and decrease the quality of the connection for the people that are online. So New Hampshire Gives, let's start with the basics, because every once in a while I've done one of these trainings and get halfway through it and somebody goes, what is it, or when is it? It's an initiative of the Center for Nonprofits. It's 24 hours where New Hampshire nonprofits come together on one platform and raise funds and awareness. The funds are important, but I think the awareness is the biggest thing for me, is that more people know what you're doing. And we've heard so many stories about people saying, oh, after New Hampshire Gives, I had this other organization or this other person approach us because they heard about us during New Hampshire Gives. So I think that that is hugely valuable. What we do is we make sure that we have our media partners, we make sure that there's statewide promotion leading up to and during the day, and we also make sure that you have education and tools to use the strategies that will make you the most successful. This year, we are on June 11th and 12th. It starts at 5 p.m. on the 11th and finishes off at 5 p.m. on the 12th. For those of you who don't know, donations open promptly at 5 p.m. on the 11th, but they do stay open through the end of the day on Friday that week, so that if somebody missed out, they can still donate and feel like they were a part of the day. But the bulk of the donations do come in during that 24 hours. So 2016 was when we started. It's happened every June since then. We started out with about 280 nonprofits participating, and this year we're already at 550, which is well above where we were at this time last year, so I'm hoping that we'll get well over 600. Overall, more than 1,000 nonprofits have participated, and those nonprofits have raised $15 million in 9 years. Through more than 100,000 donations. And just to give you an idea of what is possible, there are about 5 or 6 organizations that if you add up what they've raised over the years that they participated, and for some of them that's 5 years and for some of them that's 9, they've raised more than $200,000 in those years. So it is possible. You just have to get your team moving and get the strategies in place and have fun with it. So in 2016, we raised $188,000 from 281 organizations and 1,800 donors. I remember being told that year or the next year that New Hampshire would never be a multi-million-dollar giving day. And I was like, okay. And then in 2020, we blew that out of the water, and we raised $1 million in about 5 minutes, the first 5 minutes. And ever since then, we have been a multi-million-dollar giving day. Last year, we raised $3.5 million for 610 organizations from 15,000 donors. That's the number that I focus on. The more people become aware of New Hampshire Gives, the more people become aware of your organizations, the bigger the day will get. More organizations participating does equal more community reach, because every single one of you is reaching out to a different group of people. There's some overlap. We hear that from people, like I hear from everybody about New Hampshire Gives, and I'm like, that's great. And so that benefits all nonprofits. Other information this year, we have 60 organizations that have never participated before. Are any of you in the room? Yay! Love seeing you here, because you know what? Organizations that attend our trainings raise twice as much money on average than those that do not. So you guys already have a leg up. We have 65% of the organizations participating are members of the center. Who's a member in here? Yeah. You guys help support everything we do, but you make things like New Hampshire Gives possible. New Hampshire Gives is not a huge revenue stream for us, but we do it because it's important and because we love doing it, and it matters to the community. If you remember nothing else that I say today, please remember this. New Hampshire Gives works because of community. It works because 6 or 7 nonprofits in the Upper Valley get together and put out a flyer every year that they distribute to all the businesses in their region. It works because all of you are reaching out to the people in your community to say, hey, this is important to us. Let's do this. Some people think of New Hampshire Gives as competitive because there are prizes. And I will say to you that if that's what you're thinking, then you're doing it wrong. Sorry. It's not, there are prizes to compete for, and it's fun to be like, oh, I'm going to beat so-and-so, and that's fun. But it's not like, I want to beat them, it's good fun. So it's all about community, getting people engaged. If you're just doing it solo and you're not talking to anybody in your community, you're missing out on the real power of New Hampshire Gives. Speaking of those prizes, I'm going to lose y'all, you're going to be like on your phone. The prize page is now live. I made it live this morning, so if you were on the site this morning, maybe you saw it. We have $51,000 in cash prizes this year, which is an increase over last year. Many of those prizes are thanks to the generous support of the Charitable Foundation. And in addition to the cash prizes, we have almost $10,000 in in-kind prizes, which are things like consulting packages. There's also a PSA package that you can win, and those are ones that you kind of have to sign up for and say, yes, I'm interested in this, and then we do a random drawing for those. One thing is going to change this year. Your your donors are really zealous. And we've always placed a lot of importance on the unique donor metric for our prizes, because the goal for New Hampshire Gives is to get you guys all some new donors. And unique donors is the way to measure that. Some of your donors figured out that email address was the determinant for unique donors, and they got a little creative with making multiple donations under different email addresses, which was not against the rules. I applaud them for their enthusiasm, but it is something that we wanted to address this year, and so we will be looking at unique donations through a different lens. We will still be looking at email address, but there will be other metrics that we will be looking at to determine who the winners of the prizes are, just so you know. So those prizes might not be announced as quickly as you're used to, because we will be taking a little bit of time to do some due diligence and clean some things up. Commonly asked questions. You're going to get hit with a lot of information from these panels today, and you're going to be like, oh my God, I'm never going to remember all of this. So I just wanted to touch base on 4 sources that are great for you to go and find answers, and then we'll talk about if you can't find the answers there, where do you go? So the top page is the FAQs. This is on the New Hampshire Give site. It has tons of information, both for you and your donors. It also has some FAQs for your fundraising champions if you're using fundraising champions. So that's a great place to start. The second best source is, you've probably all seen this if you signed up for New Hampshire Gives. When you went to the Apply Now, you got to this page that had a ton of information on it. I hope you read it and memorized it, everybody. I thought so. But that has a lot of information about your eligibility and getting signed up. The third best source is the Nonprofit Toolkit, which is a main menu item on the site. And that has so many resources in it, I forget. And then every once in a while, one of you will come up to me like, oh my God, I used this resource and it was so helpful. And I'm like, oh yeah, we have that. So there's tons of stuff there. It's deep. You kind of have to play around in there and look, but there are templates. There are downloadable graphics. If you've never used our downloadable graphics, it's like pre-made for you. There are certain ones that you can download and then just plug your own picture into it, and it has the logo and like Together We Give. There's also a document that comes with those that, if you're not good with graphics, will tell you how to do that in Canva, which is a product that nonprofits can use for free. The fourth best source is Google. And I would say, out of the questions that I get on a daily basis, probably 5 out of 10 of them, I Google the answer and then email you back with a link. So the key is, you go to Google and you type in GiveGab, how do I, and you finish the question. How do I add a match? How do I add an admin? Generally, one of the first few links that'll come up is going to be a support page that GiveGab has put up there that has pictures and step-by-step instructions on how to do all of these things. So they're hugely helpful. I refer to them all the time. I don't keep them bookmarked because I can just search on Google every time I want them. So that's a great place to find information. Can't find it. There's 2 places that you can contact, and I'm going to give you little tips about who to contact for what. New Hampshire Gives at nhnonprofits.org is us. It's me and one of my colleagues who helps me monitor that email. And the best questions for there are like related to eligibility issues. If you have questions about the strategies of matching in peer-to-peer, those kinds of questions are great for us. Questions about trainings, things like that. The other email is customersuccess@givegab.com, and that is GiveGab. I'll touch on it in a minute for those of you who don't know who I'm talking about. They are great for questions related to your bank account information, your Giving Day dashboard, and donation issues. So the day of, if your donors are having issues, these are the people that you want to email, not me. Or there is a blue chat bubble on every page of New Hampshire Gives that you and your donors can both use to say, you know, we've had people be like, oh, I think I donated twice. I only meant to donate once. So they'll help with those things. Out of those emails that I was telling you about, that like half of them I Google, almost the other half I forward to GiveGab, because people will send things like, I don't know why I'm not donatable, I don't know why my banking information isn't all set, and I reply and then copy GiveGab and say, GiveGab customer success, will you please help? And they are super responsive, super good at customer service. That's one of their priorities. So GiveGab. GiveGab has been our partner since 2016. They were a little tiny company. We were one of their first giving days. And they recently were part of an acquisition where Bonterra purchased a bunch of smaller organizations. GiveGab was one. Network for Good was one. So there's a bunch of them. But they are still the same team that we've always loved, and they're great. They're the behind-the-scenes heroes. They're the reason that when we got that $1 million in 5 minutes, that the site didn't crash. Like, we really thought it had when the numbers were going up so fast. I was like on chat with them going, did the site break? And they're like, no, you really got that many donations. And so they keep that reliable, secure platform going for us throughout the day. They also provide customer support so that you can get your questions answered and your donors can get their questions answered. And they also work every year to enhance the donor experience, make it easier, more transparent, and they're always working on ways to help nonprofits use the strategies better. So before I hand it over to the panel in just a couple minutes, thank God I'm running early, I have a checklist that I've shared with some of you before. So what do you do after today? This is your checklist. Make sure your profile is updated. Make sure you've got a good description that's compelling. Add photos, add videos if you have them. Set a goal. One of the questions that we get frequently is, what do I set for a goal? I have no idea. Set a small one if you don't know. You can change your goal multiple times throughout the day. So if you meet your goal, you just go in and you set a new goal. And then you message your people and say, hey, we reached our goal. Thank you so much. You know, tell your friends so that we can meet this next goal. Create donation levels. Donation levels give your donors an idea of what the money that they're donating can do. So you have a $5 donation level that can do this much and a $50 donation level that can do this much, and be specific and tell them what that is. Have a small one, but also have a stretch one where somebody who might, maybe, let's say your middle is 50. But your 100 tells them what they can do for $100, and they're like, oh, that sounds really good. Maybe I'll give 100. So it gives them like more of an incentive to maybe go up higher than they originally were planning. Recruit your team. You don't want to do this alone, and there's a lot to do. It really depends on how you do it, but you want to have somebody who is watching your social media, somebody who's watching your email. This is for the day of. Somebody who's manning the phone, because donors will call you with their issues or to say hello. Make sure everybody knows what their role is. And then find community partners. Community partners can be people that just put up a sign in their business for you. They can be people that send out an email saying, we love this organization and they're participating in New Hampshire Gives. We hope that you will too. They can also be match sponsors, so things like that. I also always encourage people to get creative with it. Like if you've got, my favorite story, you guys have all probably heard this before, if you've got a dry cleaner and to benefit them and you, they say, if you bring in your receipt for your donation to my organization, this organization, you'll get 5% off your next dry cleaning order. So it's a win-win. So get creative with your partners, see what kinds of things they can offer. Have a communications plan for your team, for your community partners, and for your potential donors. So you don't forget that you still gotta communicate with all of these people and let them know what's going on. And then don't forget to plan stewardship. I don't hear this as much anymore, but the first few years that we did New Hampshire Gives, I would hear from donors saying, yeah, I gave to such and such organization and I never heard from them again. I got that automated donation receipt and then I never heard from them again. That organization did not get another donation from that donor, I'm pretty sure. So the people that donate to you during New Hampshire Gives, you can download that whole list, import it into whatever system you're using, and make them a part of your overall donor stewardship throughout the year, and make sure that they know what the money that they've given to you is doing for your organization and for the community. So that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions right now? I blew you all out of the water. Oh, sorry, wait for the mic.
At some point, at some point over the day, will somebody kind of go through, like start to finish, how you get a donation, and what happens when the person's actually giving the donation to the center? Kind of like walk through a typical scenario on the day of.
On the day of, somebody goes to your site, they get there through either a link that you sent them or they search for you on the site, and the button will say donate. And there'll also be, if you have donation levels, there'll be donation levels that each one will have a button that they can click on. They click on the donate button, it goes to a page where they can enter an amount, and they can make a bunch of choices there. They can choose whether or not they're going to cover the fees for the donation. They can choose whether or not they're going to be anonymous to the public. If they don't choose to be anonymous, all of those donations kind of go through a ticker on the home page, and it shows who donated, how much, and to what organization. And if they leave a message, they can leave a message with a donation. Our team watches that feed because it's so rewarding to see all the cool messages that come in. They can then say, I want to kind of keep shopping, and go and add another donation to another organization to their cart. It's very intuitive, very much like an Amazon shopping cart. And then once they're ready, they click on checkout, and they can pay via credit card. They can pay via ACH transfer, which would be logging into their bank. They can also, if they're on their mobile device, they can pay via Google Pay or Apple Pay. And then they automatically get a receipt that has your tax ID number and the amount that they gave that can serve as a tax receipt for the people who are lucky enough to be able to actually claim that stuff. And then you'll get a notification that you got a donation, and then you take it from there with, do you follow up with them that day? Do you do a mailing afterwards? Does that cover like kind of what you were looking for? Okay, great. I've got a question over here, Kelly. Kelly's got to get her steps in today.
Yeah, my question is, in the toolkit, you have so many awesome graphics we can use. Are there also any templates for text, like for email, social media posts? Are those in there too?
Yeah, they are.
Okay. Amazing, thank you.
They are. You just have to kind of look through a few things, but they are there. I wish the navigation was a little bit better, but that's something to work on for the future. Other questions? All right. Kelly? Angelica, any questions from the live stream audience?
No, but we have a lot of very exciting words
Awesome. Thank you. All right, so we will bring up our panel now. We have a very special guest today moderating for us. Mary Jo Brown from Brown & Company is one of the biggest fans of New Hampshire Gives and of the New Hampshire non-profitable sector. Non-profitable? I don't know where that came from. She, along with Kristen Oliveri, who is here, they were instrumental in bringing New Hampshire Gives into the multi-million-dollar giving day that it is through their support of the center and of New Hampshire Gives. And so she knows New Hampshire Gives really well, and she loves nonprofits, so I thought she would be a great person to facilitate our panels today. So panelists, come on up. We've got Lori and Jeff and Rick. I'm not going to do any introductions because I know you guys have your elevator speeches already.
I'd like to
tell the truth.
Hi, everyone. I really had fun reading about you last night. I'm glad to see you in person. Okay, everyone. There are 2 panels today, and they're broken into 2 parts. Part 1 is all about getting ready, okay? So the preparation for the big New Hampshire Gives Day. Part 2 is all about the execution of the day itself. So here we are, getting ready with our wonderful panelists, and each of them is going to do a quick introduction for you, telling us about who they are, the organization that they're from, what the organization does, and then a little bit of their history with New Hampshire Gives. So is it okay to start right with you? Thank you, Lori.
Which button do I push?
Which button do you push? I'm definitely the technology person. That was a joke.
Is that it?
Try it. It's
Can you hear me
green.
now?
It's a good
You
sign.
can hear me? Okay. So my name is Lori McIntosh, and I am the board chair of Our Place NH. Our mission is to create supportive housing for adults with developmental disabilities. And many of you may not realize it, but New Hampshire doesn't really have housing for adults with developmental disabilities, and so we are a bunch of parents who are trying to make this happen. Because we're all getting too old to take care of our adult children anymore. So we're located in the New Hampshire seacoast, sort of in Dover. We have a small organization. We have a board of directors, an executive director, and a bunch of volunteers. And we, in terms of impact, we're not really providing services yet because we have been busy squirreling money away to buy property and build. So we're looking forward to a day when we can provide services, and that's coming closer, but it's been taking a while. We started with, we became a 501c3 in April of 2020, and one of the people on my board said, we have to do this thing called New Hampshire Gives. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what is that? And so we only had like, a month and a half to get ready for this thing. And we raised $45,000 our first year. So it was like, oh, okay, this works. You know, we can, and we found that, you know, people want to support our cause, so that was good. So we've been doing it since then. And last year, we were at the top of the leaderboard with $59,386 that came from 387 donors. And then we had $25,000 in matching funds that we raised offline before the event, which really helped bring in more. We were able to win some of the prizes, so we ended up with a total of $89,156. And then checks came in after that. So they weren't really technically part of New Hampshire Gives, but we got several thousands of dollars after New Hampshire Gives in the mail. Do we do the greatest benefit?
We'll do that at the wrap.
Okay, the wrap. Okay, that's it.
Oh, I said at the beginning, sure. What's the greatest benefit that your organization gets?
Well, for us, and it may not be the same for other like older organizations, is that people have come to realize this is our annual thing. So when our donors want to know when to give money, they give it during New Hampshire Gives. So for us, it's our biggest fundraiser of the year. The other thing that I love about it is it doesn't take a ton of volunteers to do this. It's not easy, I won't say it's easy, but you can do it with a fairly small number of people if you're well organized.
It may not be easy, but do you think it's fun?
Oh, it's fun. It is fun. We do, yeah, I'll tell more about that later, but it's fun.
And what an incredible success story out of the gate. I'm sure that we will want to hear more about that as we dig into this panel. Jeff, would you mind introducing yourself next?
Hi, good morning, everybody here and online. My name is Jeff Rapsis. I am the Executive Director of the Aviation Museum of New Hampshire. People say, does New Hampshire really have an aviation museum? Yes, we do, and New Hampshire Gives has been a great way for us to tell our story to a much wider audience than I think we had before this program. And so our organization is at the Manchester-Boston Regional Airport. We are housed in the original 1937 passenger terminal with an exhibit center that's on the back of it. We're right there at the airport. It's a great location for what we do. We have a two-part mission. We do preserve history and do all the things a museum does. We have a collection and we curate it and we're open to researchers. But we also look forward in terms of getting young people to think about education for aerospace and aviation careers. And that's turned into quite an operation for us because about 5 years ago we began a high school student airplane building program in Manchester. High school kids building an airplane. What could go wrong? And it raised our profile quite a bit. We got a lot of attention for that, and New Hampshire Gives has helped us raise the funds necessary for that program because we're doing it independent of the school district. We're not using any school property tax funds for this program in Manchester, and in as of next year, Lebanon, New Hampshire, and in 2025, Farmington, New Hampshire. So we'll have 3 high schools with about 50 kids building airplanes in New Hampshire. All through our nonprofit partnership with these school districts. We are a staff of 3. We are a volunteer community of more than 100 people who contribute regularly to all the different programs we do, including that student plane building program I mentioned. Our annual budget, just operations, is about $300,000 a year. We are constantly raising money because our, what I call our box office, the revenue we get for earned income from people buying tickets or buying things in our store, it only covers about 15% of what it costs to run our museum. So we have a pretty busy schedule of fundraising events, and New Hampshire Gives came along at a time where the pandemic prevented us from raising funds in a lot of the events we traditionally did. And it worked out to be a real godsend for us during a vulnerable time. We are not a frontline service provider. We don't provide food, clothing, or shelter. We have a long-term educational mission. It was very hard to get donations during the first stage of the pandemic, and New Hampshire Gives was a wonderful platform for us to tell our story and to make our case at a time when it was hard to find dollars from many of our traditional sources. So we participate in it now because it's not our main fundraiser. It's one of a series of things we do each year that we schedule so that we have a regular cadence of fundraising to help keep our bottom line healthy. But it's turned into a great opportunity for us to tell our story, as I said, to people all around the state and beyond. We are the Aviation Museum of New Hampshire, so we like to try to aspire to be a statewide organization that serves the whole state. And our plane building program is just one way we're doing that. We also have in development some virtual learning programs so that any classroom in the state of New Hampshire can tap into our resources at the museum and have programming that's from Manchester and available north of the Notches or wherever it might be. It all takes money, and the New Hampshire Gives platform has been a major way for us to augment some of our traditional fundraising. One reason I think I was invited here is because we've had particular success in matching programs that we've done every year. We started in the pandemic, 2020, and we had several ways of approaching the matching thing that we've tried, and they've all worked out successful. We've never missed a match. And in terms of actual numbers, every year it's been consistently a $10,000. No, actually the first year I think we did a $5,000 match, and we matched that to get $10,000, which is a big amount for our $300,000 annual budget. Since then we've been able to do $10,000 matches and do them very successfully. And this year we're going to be trying something a little bit more ambitious. We have $20,000 in matching funds that we've accumulated that we're going to be hoping to match through our statewide plane building program this year. So I can talk a little bit more about that as the questions come, but the program's been really helpful to us, I think, not just financially, but for our awareness and building our engagement with people who otherwise never would have known about us. So.
I love that. I love that you set yet another ambitious goal. So I think it would be great for everyone in the spirit of getting ready to learn about what you're doing to make sure you can meet that goal and how you're organizing that. Let's hand it over to, and by the way, the building for the Aviation Museum, when I went to the website, I saw this picture of the building being moved on that trailer. It's super cool, so check it out. The story of the building is
Yeah, the
amazing.
Concord Monitor described it as the funkiest building in New Hampshire, so.
I had no idea, and I learned about it last night. Rick, we'd love to have you introduce yourself and talk a little bit about building community in New Hampshire.
Thanks. I'm Rick Menard. I'm the Executive Director of Building Community in New Hampshire, and I think New Hampshire Gives really saved my organization. We work with refugees and other immigrants. We help them help them navigate their way to safe, healthy, productive, prosperous, and connected lives in New Hampshire. It may not surprise any of you to know that the people we work with don't have a lot of money. They're not our big donors. They're refugees. They come to New Hampshire with nothing, and we help them get established. And in 2018, when I started at the organization, we had pretty much disappeared. The board had laid off all of its staff, and we were struggling. Our budget that year from some residual federal grants was about $200,000. Now, that was 2018. Our budget this year is close to $900,000. We've done well. We're no longer a small nonprofit, we're a mid-sized nonprofit. I'm proud of that. And one of the reasons is because we learned how to use New Hampshire Gives. It's still an experiment for us, frankly. Sometimes it works, sometimes less so well. But the key to our success has been peer-to-peer fundraising, and I'll talk about that a little bit more, I guess, as the panel goes along. But so now in our first year, we just kind of registered and waited to see what would happen. We didn't have a mailing list. We didn't have an email list. We had almost nothing. We got some donations and raised about $1,200. Not bad for an organization that had almost disappeared. You know, and this was 4 or 5 months after I started. By 2022, we raised more than $42,000, and we had that mailing list. New Hampshire Gives helped us build an email list, helped us build our reach out, and we did that through peer-to-peer fundraising, discovering other people across New Hampshire and across the country and even internationally who thought that the work that we were doing was important. And you know, last year, actually, we didn't do so well, really. But we're doing it again. And what we didn't do well last year, we'll try to fix this year. It's not too late to start, I hope, because I'm kind of just starting myself right now. There is a lot to be said for early organization, for amassing a pool of matching funds. If you don't have it already, you might get it and you might still succeed. So learn from today and get started.
Thank you. I'm so inspired by each of these stories. I hope you can all see in the room and online that these are small to medium-sized nonprofits, and that the trajectory of their earnings through New Hampshire Gives, even if you've had an off year, it's had a real impact for the size of their budgets and the work that they do. So, of course, Deborah picked great panelists to have us here today. If you don't mind, Rick, I'd love to know, since you just expressed specifically a few things that maybe you didn't get quite right last year, but you're going to fix this year, can we just start? I would love to dig in with that since you opened that conversation up there.
Sure.
What did you miss and what are you going to do different this year?
So let me just describe peer-to-peer fundraising. I think it's one of the key features of New Hampshire Gives. I go to my board members, my staff members, my wife, other people I know who believe in our work and who know people I don't know. That's the key. And I asked them to please help us this year in New Hampshire Gives. And they say, what do you want? Yeah, I'll write you a check. I said, a check would be nice. I want your friends to write us checks. I want you to send an email to your friends, people I don't know, and say, on June 11, click on this link and give to DCNH. And in fact, they say, give to my page on DCNH, a peer. You set up that peer, and then they set up their own little giving page that's attached to your organization page. So my wife is really good at this. And she knows a bunch of people. Her mom was incarcerated during World War II because she's Japanese American. She knows a lot of other people who experienced that kind of institutional racism. And she gets them to give to us because we're fighting that kind of racism. And so she has her own link. She sends that link to other people whose parents or grandparents went through the incarceration. And they click on the link, and on the giving day, Susanna tally starts rising, and it says, this family gave $500, this family gave $500. Susanna's total is now up to $3,020 donors. And all those people come in to our orbit now because their emails are attached to the giving page, and we can harvest them. And I can write to them again in November and say, it's year-end donation time. Could you write us another check, please?
Leveraging the peer-to-peer.
Yeah, and so the success we've had has come through that peer-to-peer work. The weakness last year, partly because our champion leader, Doug Hall, many of you may know him, was on our board. He had a lot of friends from around the world who owed him favors. And he was able single-handedly to bring in 40 donors and $15,000, $20,000, $30,000. And he retired from the board and he said, look, I've exhausted all those favors. I'll keep doing it, but don't expect this much. I need to find another person like Doug who can do this work for us. The matches help. They've helped a lot. And just one other strategy, you'll hear about challenge grants. How do you motivate those peer-to-peer fundraisers? Some of them give because they're my wife and they know it helps me, it helps us. But other people, our staff, our other board members, they believe in the work, but it's annoying to have to write to your friends and I set up a challenge grant where I personally committed a donation of $1,000 if we had 200 individual donations. So I'm telling my board, look, get on it. You want me to make a big donation, right? Out of my own pocket. It's only going to happen if you bring in those donors through your peer-to-peer efforts. And that helps.
So I love that story. I hope you are seeing that all of the items that Rick is talking about, you set up early. So peer-to-peer fundraisers, organizational matches, and challenges are things that you put in place before the day of. You get these items in place and get ready to execute them on the day of. Quickly in the room and online, how many of you already understand what a peer-to-peer fundraising, the peer-to-peer fundraising? Okay, and that's great. So you already understand how it works. I'm going to say that as a board member, my fearless leader is listening in. She's not in the room. The woman that runs the organization that I'm a board member of, small and mighty organization. I thought, oh my gosh, I don't know if I know how to set up a peer-to-peer. Do I really want to do this? I'm not sure. And you know what she does? She sends all of the board members a link and says, I have made it easy for you. Sign up now. You're doing this. And guess what? We just have to hit on the link and then we're doing it. So I would say engage as many peers as you can as early as you can in the process. So let's talk more about peer-to-peer, because I believe also Lori's had great experience with peer-to-peer.
Well, oops. Yeah, in our organization, since it's a lot of parents and their adult children, it sets up perfect teams for the peer-to-peer fundraising, because you can ask families to have a page. And so each family tells their story, has pictures. But one thing I have found that was really important to do, although it's pretty easy to do, is I make a video on how to set up your peer-to-peer page.
Okay, great.
And I
Great tip.
send the video out to everybody. That it takes them absolutely step by step, slowly through the process, so that they can't mess up. And then I don't get so many phone calls, because the technology bit is always a little bit frightening for people. So if you can make it easy for them, that really, really helps.
And how do you find peers, all of you? So I love that Rick said, a peer could be my wife. A peer could be Mr. Hall, who did a great job of bringing lots of interest and donors. Who else could be a peer? You clearly have an audience where there are likely peers.
Right, we have out of our huge mailing list, we have a small mailing list for parents and siblings. So I would send this email out to all the parents and siblings and say, if you want to be a peer-to-peer fundraiser, this is what it is, and here's a video.
Yeah, is there anything else you do to get them to sign? You've made it easy for them. You've got a list to ask. I'd love to ask each of you about this, because what if one outcome of today is that you all decide you are going to blow it out of the water with your peer-to-peer fundraising items. Like that you say, you know what, last year, I've never tried it, I'm trying it this year. Last year, I was able to have 5 peer-to-peer fundraising campaigns going on during the day. What if you double that? So this is something you can do to get ready to succeed. So let's keep talking peer-to-peer, anyone and everyone on the panel. Yeah.
Oh, I guess it's my turn. I'll be a little contrarian about it. We haven't done much strict peer-to-peer, as Rick described, within New Hampshire Gives. We've done kind of a low-tech way of doing it. We've had in the past an anonymous donor who wanted to see us make a success of New Hampshire Gives, but insisted that before we went public with a matching campaign, that this person's donation would be matched by our board members contributing to the match, or we wouldn't get the first match money from the anonymous donor. So before New Hampshire Gives happened, we had this whole little exercise going on in February and March within our organization, with board members being asked to contribute to create a matching pool of funds for us to be able to go forward with a public match. I think I don't know if many people listen to public radio here, but one of the things you run into is the pledge drive fatigue thing, right? What are they asking for money again? And we are in a constant fundraising cycle, and we have to be very careful to curate how many times we ask people to go on our behalf to their friends and their networks to donate to us. And we've been doing that kind of all along as an organization, and the New Hampshire Gives avenue hasn't been one that we've elected to do peer-to-peer strictly within the New Hampshire Gives ecosystem, where people get new pages going and bring people in that way. Still, we've been successful for what we've sought to do. It's just a different perspective. We do that sort of thing all the time. Any successful nonprofit has to. But in the case of New Hampshire Gives, it's not an avenue that we choose to emphasize in the way that Rick and others may.
Jeff, can you quickly talk about, so I love this. Jeff is saying, okay, forget peer-to-peer for me. We used an organizational match. Can you talk about what that dollar amount was, if it was easy to ask for that gift, how early on you get that set up? It'd be great for people to think again in terms of early preparation for the June Giving Day.
Well, since we've been involved with New Hampshire Gives, we've built it into our fundraising calendar, so it's not like a surprise. And because we've had success with the organizational match, I guess is what it's called, we've planned for that well in advance. And we have some contributors who were going to give us some funds because they support our mission. And knowing that that was going to happen, we proposed to them, would you be willing to contribute your funds in the form of matching funds for a potential program in New Hampshire Gives? And we've been successful with doing that, and in each case we've been able to take the amount that the person was going to contribute to us and use it as a base to essentially double the money. It's been a 100% match that we've always done. And so the donor's pleased because they've helped facilitate a whole nother round of giving. Their money isn't just coming to us, it's being used as a foundation for us to do all the things that a program like New Hampshire Gives can bring to your organization, which is not just extra money, but more visibility, more number of donors, new donors. It's all facilitated, but it doesn't happen, I think, without a certain amount of planning and awareness. We do the same thing for Giving Tuesday. Which is on the other end of the calendar, closer to the end of the year. We try and find a source of funds that we can use to promote some kind of a dollar for dollar type match. But if we did this all the time, it would quickly wear out, or I think people would not want to give to us unless there was one of those matches going on, or else why should I give to you? I should wait for the next match to come along. So we have to curate it and be careful about the pacing and all that. So I don't know, I kind of went all over the place there, but the basic message is that yes, a little bit of planning can go a long way if you know that this is how you want to use New Hampshire Gives. You can get it put in place well ahead of time, and then if you go to New Hampshire Gives now, and you'll see on our webpage, it talks about our $20,000 matching campaign we're using to promote the 2 student plane builds that we have starting up in the next couple of years. And if I may, that's another point, is that we have used New Hampshire Gives to not be general about our organization, but we've had very good luck at promoting one specific thing. Here's what you're going to be doing for us. It's kind of what you do when you put the buttons there that say $100 buys this, $500 buys that. We build the whole campaign on here's what you're donating to support. New Hampshire Gives is going to help these kids build an airplane in Lebanon and in Farmington. And the more concrete you can be, we found, the better the rate of success will be with people who find it something they want to support. That's really cool. I'll donate to that. It's kind of the reaction that we get if we can be more specific. So.
Yeah, and I just want to reiterate, matches work. In life, when you can find these win-wins, we all know that a match increases the donor's engagement. Yes, quick comment.
Can I ask a quick question? When you're talking to organizations like I have some organizations that are planning to donate to us, like how do you
No, I just. Yeah, I'll repeat the question. Got it.
How do you like set that up? How do you ask for the, like, what is the match? Like,
yes. So I think this question relates to, okay, you're telling me matching is important. We have this peer-to-peer fundraising tool we can use. We have organizational matches we can use. How do we set up the organizational match? So can you just walk through the actual steps, like dial it back and be very practical and here, step 1, step 2, step 3. It would be helpful, I think, for the audience.
Go ahead. Okay, I don't mean to keep going, but in our case, we start with what is going to be the theme of our request this year. Before we're thinking of money, before we're thinking of anything, what is the story that we can get attention for? New Hampshire Gives is a great place to tell your story. And so in this case, in the past, we've had our summer camp program. In fact, we had a scholarship fund where we had refugees come and got their tuition to our summer camp paid for through New Hampshire Gives donations. With our expanding plane build program, that was clearly the choice this year. We're in 2 areas of the state that we don't have much of a presence in right now, Lebanon in the Upper Valley, and way on the other side, Farmington, near Rochester. It's a tiny high school, by the way. There's only 150 kids in this high school. They never joined any of the regional school districts, and we're really excited to see them have the opportunity. The whole school is going to help build a plane. So there's a great story there. So we start with that. And then you look at the numbers, and each one of these plane builds is a $250,000 proposition, which is, if you remember, our budget for the whole year is $300,000, and so we have these giant projects coming along. get most of the funding through larger sources from foundations, from the New Hampshire Community Development Finance Authority and other things. But we always want to have a large public component so people can give small amounts and feel they've helped their community build a plane. And that's what we're going to use New Hampshire Gives for. We've accumulated enough in sort of the quiet phase of the fundraising for both of these, so the timing was perfect. We just now can say we have a good solid base of about $150,000 in Lebanon, for instance. Now it's time for you to help get us across the goal line, and this New Hampshire Gives matching campaign is just the way you can do it and make your dollars go that much further through the match. And so that's how it kind of came together before we even thought, who's going to give us that money for the match? We sort of had a structure in mind. And then we looked at our roster of contributors, and in the case of the museum, there's a family that helped us build that big exhibit hall, the Slesser family that lived in Hopkinton for many years, and they've been involved in local philanthropy. None of them live in the area anymore, but we keep in touch with them, and it was time to talk to the family about making some kind of major gift. The last time they had done it was a few years ago, and what a great story we had for them. We have the plane build, we have an opportunity for you to make a contribution, but you'll help enable so much more if you're able to donate a gift of $20,000. And I should back up a little. We did come up with the numbers thinking we've done $20,000 total, $10,000 matching for the past few years, but we felt this was a good story that we could bring in a lot more people with, so we felt $20,000 as a base would allow us to get $20,000 in donations, and we're crossing our fingers and we're going to work really hard to see if we can do that. But it didn't start with the money. It started with the story, I guess is my point.
And just so you know, we will have a Q&A period shortly, and thank you. If there's a technical question, you know that you're going to ask Deborah about it, because she's the right person to ask about any and all technical questions. And I think organizational matches need to be thoughtfully, the dollar amount needs to be thoughtfully selected. So I have noticed that you need to look at the types of donations you get in, look at your donation history, your fundraising history. You need to know if you have a person or a group of people who might be likely to offer an organizational match. And it's this interesting thing, this game with selecting the number, because I found with the people that I work with on New Hampshire, I mean, I was part of New Hampshire Gives with Kristen Oliveri in a much different sense, but as I'm participating as a nonprofit, we really carefully pick that number. We try to pick a number that stretches us, that we know we can get an organizational match for, and we typically hold a little bit aside because we want to be successful. We want to say, yes, we've met that goal. We're going to start with a $10,000 match. Yes, we have a donor who's willing to give the entire $10,000. We've asked that donor many years in a row. She's really been enjoying this. She likes the idea of matches, because all donors like the idea of matches. Can we put it up to 15? Maybe we can't put it to 15. Maybe we can ask her for 15, but say, hey, will you publicly give us 10? We'll go out with 10, and if we're doing well, will you give us 5 more? And what if we think of another person who is also a donor, who is going to give the organization $5,000 this year, and we said, wait a minute, we're almost near June. Can you hold on that $5,000, and will you be ready to give us that $5,000 on the day of New Hampshire Gives? Guess what? We're baking in success. We're sort of strategizing, figuring out where we'll get certain dollars from, and then planfully thinking through how we will leverage that the day of. I hope that continues.
Can I add a little bit more to
Lori,
that?
we'd love to hear
I
from
just
Lori.
want to say that, just from a practical standpoint, so I've got people who don't like to give online, so they write me checks, and if they do it in February, March, I say, can we use it for New Hampshire Gives? Yes. So we get the money, we put it in the bank, and then when you're on the New Hampshire Gives site, you can just, I mean, in case you're wondering how this all happens, you can put your matches in. So then the money never has to leave the bank. It's there, and you just, so then you want to be creative. We have like the coffee hour match and the lunchtime match or the wake up early match or whatever, so we try to time it out throughout the day so that there's some kind of fun match going on all the time. This year I just got $20,000 yesterday, so that'll last us. We want to make sure that we time it so that we meet the match. You don't want to do $20,000 in a 3-hour period. You're not going to get it. So you want to take that, figure out how much time that $20,000 match. You can have matches overlapping. So if you've got a high time period like the evening, you might want to have 2 or 3 matches running out at the same time. You can do that. You can also change your matches during the event. So if suddenly you decide, I don't think we're going to spend this whole match, let's extend it to tomorrow morning. So you can change that online.
And you can also use it as advertising.
Yes.
A board member had a business, CarePoint Plus, and it was the CarePoint Player Plus match. It showed up that way on our page. So he was getting something back from it, visibility as a donor. And that's valuable to a lot of people.
Right.
I hope you are sensing that the way to be successful on the day of New Hampshire Gives is not to show up on the day of New Hampshire Gives. It is to show up long before that and to do a lot of planning, a lot of asking, a lot of orchestration. It's all in the setup. Bake in your success early. I would love to continue to talk about
I just had a question about matches.
Matches, great.
So because, so we've done a few matches, but when the businesses ask us, well, what do we get from the match? You're like, what kind of promotion? You're like,
Okay,
So the businesses ask what kind of match, when they give us a match, what do they get from it? Like when they advertise in our program for our concerts, we can say, well, you're gonna reach 1,800 people. What do they want? They want some specific.
If you go to a business and you ask for a match and the business says, what type of promotion will I get? I'm gonna say something before any of the panelists say something. Never promise to do something that you don't do. You've just lost that partner, okay? So I would say under promise, over deliver, be realistic in what you can do and what they can expect. I'd love to hear,
Sure, you can do a couple of things. One, on the day, or even in advance, if anybody goes to your site, that match will appear with whatever name they want. And $500, $5,000. It'll show the person there. But in the advanced work that you're doing, I will be sending out emails to all of the people who have given before. Give on this day. And we've lined up these exciting matches. CarePoint Plus has pledged X dollars. And so it would go out as advertising that way, but only if you do it.
Right.
so
how much advertising do they get? They're asking, like, how many
So,
people are
yeah.
there?
Not much.
How many, yeah.
It's got to be philanthropy, right? This is
Yeah, I
not
understand, but
really
that's
paid.
what they're asking,
Yeah.
all right, so keep in mind, this is an online giving day. What can you promise? You could say, Smith's Automotive, we will give you 5 Facebook posts and 3 Instagram posts during the day of online giving. We will use your logo next to our logo with a giant thank you. Do something practical. So you have to show, they are getting exposure through the actual event, and just keep in mind, you can only use the tactics that you have in place on your website. They could have a box for the day, but this is an online event, so the exposure should primarily be thought of as through the tools that.
Well, you can also tell them how many people look at New Hampshire Gives during that 24-hour period.
Which is,
And even though they might be just going to your site, you don't have to tell the sponsor that. If they're asking you, they don't know about New Hampshire Gives. So just tell them how many people are, looking through different organizations to see who they want to give to, and people are going to see your name there.
One other thing that might work for you, when somebody gives, they immediately get an automatic response from New Hampshire Gives, from GiveGet. And you write that response. And you can say, join us on Zoom at 5 p.m. on on June 12th, as soon as the thing is over, we're going to have a celebration on Zoom. And you can talk to us, you can talk to our board, you can talk to fellow donors, you could talk to Smith's Automotive.
Yeah.
Right there and then. And so you could set it up as you will have a chance for you to thank everybody else who matched your gift. How many people actually show up on that Zoom call, I can't promise.
Right.
But it's an idea.
One of the pieces we haven't talked about yet on the panel, and again, we'll do Q&A fully after we hit on this last subject, is communications, promotions planning. So this is something that has to be done early. You need to be ready to go. And I'd love for any of our panelists to talk a little bit about how they plan for that promotion, what they do. You know, Deborah had talked about there are tools in a toolkit on the site that are very easy to use. Canva is something that's used by lots of nonprofits, but I would say this is another really important thing to be planful about. This is not day of, this is get all your posts ready early, and also time-wise, how early is too early to start posting about New Hampshire Gives? Lori.
I could start with that. So our New Hampshire Gives planning starts in January, and that's when we're planning our theme for the year. We usually have a theme, and we always send out a postcard. So we've got to design the postcard, get that to the printer, get ready to, so the postcard goes on people's refrigerators and reminds them to give that day. So one year we did a postcard that was help us build our place, and so the postcard theme was a blueprint of a building. We put out videos. Remember the stacking, the ice bucket challenge? So we tried to do something like that. So we would be anticipating these. So we did the stacking challenge. So we had our future tenants, who are all developmentally disabled, stacking things like apples or coffee cups or soup cans that said, help us build our place by giving to New Hampshire Gives. So we had these little short videos, and they didn't have to say anything. They just did the stacking thing. Last year we were Be a Superhero. That was our postcard. Be a superhero, give what to us during New Hampshire Gives. And I had all of our future tenants put a cape on and wild headgear and jump into the frame and say, be a superhero, help our place with New Hampshire Gives. And so it was kind of like, you know, people would start anticipating this on Facebook and Instagram. Here's another one of those videos. So that got people really geared up for it. So we had to plan that. We start in January. And we start figuring out our theme, our postcard, our posts, and we even plan our posts. We haven't done that yet. We're doing the April stuff now. It's May, I know. And things like the post that you're going to put out during the day. You know, you have to think ahead and go, oh, we need a post that says we're almost there. We need a post that says,
you have them all done ahead of time.
We have them all done ahead of time. We can change them.
And how many posts do you create?
Oh, we go like every hour. There's something.
All right, so frequency is high.
Yeah,
So
and we have somebody monitoring. And we have all of our people texting people, thank you for your gift. You know, calling people, thank you for your gift. So they're going to get a thank you call or text, as well as
and the thank you is written ahead of time.
We have a thank you. I think we're going to do a postcard this year.
Okay.
That thanks them for their gift, and we handwrite on it, you know, a thank you. So
I love
that's all that. It's a lot of planning.
So thematically, because you are about to build you're looking to create this place, our place is building a place. I love that you connected what you're doing with New Hampshire Gives creatively to your mission. So I'd love to ask each of the panelists too, more about communications, more about planning. Lori, those were such practical. Anything else that you didn't get to say right now? Because this was all great stuff.
Because it's an online event, we use the online stuff as much as we can. We use videos and we use posts, and you know, we're trying to really take advantage of that medium.
Which channel do you focus on the most?
Facebook, Instagram.
Okay, we know that's where it's happening for New Hampshire Gives. Facebook and Instagram. I could tell. I know everyone has that. Rick's got ideas.
Well, I hate Facebook, but fortunately, other people who work with me like it and can use it effectively, and they do. But I'll be sending out an email Monday with a letter describing my staff member Hussein Amiri's attempt to get his wife and newborn son here from Pakistan. This is a classic refugee story. Families split by war, all that, with a photo. And that will go out Monday to everybody. This is what we do.
Rick, do you
yeah.
find that the nature of the work that you do, your incredible mission, allows you to communicate or get attention effectively through New Hampshire Gives? I'm trying to figure out how you connect mission to New Hampshire Gives.
Yeah, it absolutely is about our mission. Everything we do is, here's who we are. The postcards have often featured photos of our staff because they're from around the world and their own stories are compelling. We're not sophisticated social media people, certainly not me, but we try to connect with people's philanthropic interest in refugee resettlement and building a more diverse, vibrant, and youthful culture here in New Hampshire. And some of it's about employment. We're building a workforce. Some of it's strictly, this is the right thing to do. And we try to get that word out through emails, through our peer-to-peer fundraisers too. I mean, that's really their job. And I give them scripts like this email, this letter, photographs that they can send to their friends to make it as easy as possible.
So I love that you tell the stories of the people that you work with. I loved checking out your board profiles last night. I thought it was very impressive, your board. I'd love to know also, Jeff, you got, hello, talk about a super cool mission that's fun to communicate about. Am I making this up, or did you do a drone video one year for New Hampshire Gives?
Yeah, that was one thing we did. We have to be opportunistic because we're a small organization. We just don't have a media person who focuses on that. It is my background. For 35 years I was in the printing and publishing business in New Hampshire, so it's kind of where I drift towards. But we look for opportunities rather and take advantage of them when they come. And a few years ago, the format for New Hampshire Gives included kind of a live broadcast with almost like a telethon that you could tune into when we were all doing Zoom, right? And they were looking for good video, so we just happened to have some volunteers who were doing the build their own drone project, and so we had them come in and fly a drone through our museum with people all choreographed so nobody would get hit by the drone. And it turned out to be a tremendous thing because it was this aviation themed tour of our aviation museum. And we were just delighted that it got featured right at the very end. I think it was the grand finale in that final hour when everybody's trying to push themselves over the goal line. We got some prime time for that and a lot of commentary about it, and it did drive some donations. A couple other comments based on what I heard from my other two panelists. We've done direct mail. I'm a little old school that way. I love to get stuff out into the mail. But in the case of New Hampshire Gives, I have to say we didn't see any correlation between that effort, which did cost some money, and donations coming from places where we had done it. And so I'm a little hesitant to say that worked for us. It's hard to know for sure. We're not doing it this year. I still could change, we could still change our minds about that, but that's one thing about it. I want to emphasize again what Rick was saying and what I've been saying. The story is the focus of it. I think the temptation with social media and with an online format like this is to do things like have people dress up in costumes and depending on what your organization's mission is, that could be great for building community spirit or team spirit within the organization and possibly getting fundraisers. We haven't gone in that direction for, I think, lack of ability to do it well, but also I think our audience wants to not see, if we're going to have kids building planes, we don't want to be too cutesy about it. We have to be a little serious while being emphasizing the amazingness of this story, but not veering too far into something that might take away from the importance of the mission. So it's kind of a balance. And I think that was just some thoughts from
great.
what I could tell you from our experience was. But we do, we communicate quite a lot about it. As we get closer, we'll be doing regular, we have several different email lists we work from, and we tailor the communications based on what that audience is. And we do social media, and we will be counting down. Oh, I should mention one thing too, that was, we didn't have the capacity on the actual day of to automatically update things. And so we were there even into the overnight, updating Facebook and our website with like the latest comments and celebrations and milestones and all that. And I felt that was really worth it, because people, if you donate to this, you might go check the website right after, and to see that, oh, your donation is reflected in the total on our website, there was no automated way to do that. We had to kind of just do it by hand, but we kept that up all the way through the night, even when the donations aren't coming in, and I think that's important. And then one other thing is that, speaking of old school, after everything was done, you get that spreadsheet from New Hampshire Gives. It has everybody's address there, so it's not that much trouble to write out a thank you note to everybody, similar to what you were saying, and send it to them. And we use airmail stamps that we got at a discount from stamp dealers to promote aviation. So we save on postage, and we also promote aviation, and we give people something in the mail that's not a bill, and it's not junk mail. And so that's terrific marketing for you that all comes from New Hampshire Gives. It's a reason you can send people stuff. And we continue to send them stuff, all during the fundraising cadence that we follow throughout the year. So a few thoughts.
Wait, I think at 11:25 we'll get to the questions, and we'll use 15 minutes. This is a great panel. Just checking with my leader, Deborah, I think it's worth using the time here. So I would like to ask you a trick question. Are you ready? So Kristen Oliveri and I worked really hard at rebranding New Hampshire Gives, and you might see it's a very dominant color palette that we really like to leverage a whole lot. How have you found that you are communicating or promoting your brand in conjunction with the green and yellow and branding of New Hampshire Gives? It's a trick question, I just want to tell you. Because the answer should be, this isn't nice to do as a moderator. Our hope is that nonprofits recognize the value in being part of what is a unified, well-advertised, growing campaign. So hopefully you use some green.
I'll give you an honest yet shameful answer. At the bottom of my emails that will start going out from, like next week on, I'll have the New Hampshire Gives logo beside my business logo, and give the giving days. And, and I ask my staff to do the same. So everything we send out for business and other communication will have the logo and the date there. I have tried, I don't know how many times, to get my logo into the middle of the New Hampshire Gives Giving Day thing that you're supposed to be able to do easily on Canva, and I have failed and failed. And I don't understand why. The instructions are clear, and I've got the tools, and I'm not that stupid, but I failed. Look, good luck.
We've got.
I agree on that one.
Okay, hey, we gotta fix that. Come on. Look, I'll agree to do a quick Zoom. Just help people get the logo. Okay, all right. Because the power of New Hampshire Gives is not that you are one nonprofit. It is that you are joined by 600 nonprofits all over the great state of New Hampshire raising money at the same time. Okay. Did you use any green?
With us?
Yep,
Oh.
we're all going to answer this.
Our colors are red and black, so
It doesn't go with
gets
green.
it gets to be very festive holiday,
Yes.
sort of, in Christmas in June with us. No, we use the logo as a way to connect it with the larger campaign that you do all around the state to promote the program as a whole. And I think What I like about it is that it sort of packages the charitable giving into a convenient way for you to almost go shopping for all these great causes that like you shop for anything. You can go online, and in one place they're all there organized, and they have great stories to read, and you can find out about them without having to, frantically click everywhere and wonder what you're really looking at. This is the place to go. And I think the way that it's promoted like a supermarket for nonprofits encourages donations. Yeah.
Supermarket for nonprofits.
Yeah, it's all in one place. Lots of different aisles to go down, but no matter what your tastes are, you'll find something. And that encourages a lot more giving that would probably not take place if that avenue wasn't open like that.
We were just talking about that with many people here today, putting it on your annual report. You have your upcoming events, you get your fundraisers throughout the year, and we make sure the New Hampshire Gives logo and the date is on there. And then, between January and June, everything's got New Hampshire Gives on, like the postcard obviously has New Hampshire Gives on it. And then many of our posts will just have little reminders about New Hampshire Gives coming up.
That's great. Over the years, I have noticed that there is a continued trend for all of the nonprofits that are participating to make sure they're co-branding with New Hampshire Gives. You are part of a credible, growing, unified fundraising day. So it's important for you as a nonprofit to leverage that, and the rising tide does lift all boats. Oh, thankfully, none of you are climate change. Suddenly rising tide doesn't sound good to me. I'm gonna have you each wrap with a question that I asked ahead of time, which is, right before we go to questions, I'd like to ask each panelist what the top 2 takeaways they are that they'd like to share with all of you participating in New Hampshire Gives. So as you're getting ready, again, preparation for New Hampshire Gives, what are your 2 top takeaways you think the audience should hear? Lori.
Well, I think start early and plan out, we have a whole timeline, as I said before, of things that we have to do before, because otherwise June just shows up, boom, and you are not ready. So it's good to, if you have to send your postcards to the printer and do things like that, you've got to have everything on a timeline. And then the other thing is to, use those online tools, post videos, networking, hashtags. I had to learn about hashtags. Find some millennial person to help you if you don't know how to do this stuff.
That's a great tip. I love it.
Yes. I'll add to that. I will say sharpen your story as much as you can. I've said it before, and I think it's worth repeating. A general, here's what we do, isn't going to get the donations that here's how we help people and what we're specifically going to do with what we raise. This New Hampshire Gives promotion right now that you're thinking about is going to make the donate button get clicked a lot more. And so that's the main thing I would say. I think the one other point is in choosing your target, if you're going to do any kind of match, I didn't get a chance to mention this earlier, you really should sort of have a sense of what you think you're going to be able to raise through, it helps if you've done this a few years and you kind of know how it goes. So I know there's always a guy who's a retired air traffic controller who's going to give us $1,000 because he wants to see it matched. And so I can sort of build that into whatever number, and as we add people to that list of potential donors, then that gives us a more solid foundation to maybe reach for more, which we're going to be doing this year. And I don't think we would have gone for a $20,000 match right out of the box if we hadn't already had 3 or 4 years of experience knowing who the regulars are going to be, and also knowing that we can expect this much no matter what we do, and there's the base to build from. How much higher can we go on that? That's how we set our number. So get your story sharpened up and kind of know in advance who your donors are likely to be, so you can set a reasonable number that you'll be able to say, we did it.
So I love that you're saying do the math early, and I've been trying to say this for the entire morning. So getting your story in line, you want them to straighten up and fly right? Sorry.
Why didn't I think of that? You're talking about lifting all boats, so I thought we were doing nautical metaphors.
I got no jokes, but I 2 ideas. One, think ahead. What's more important to you, more dollars or more donors? And you know, you want both, sure. But there are several leaderboards on New Hampshire Gives website that are scrolling all the time. And personally, from my organization, I've been most excited when we're at the top or in the top 5 in the number of donors. That matters a lot to me. I want people invested in our work, even if they don't have a lot of money to give. And 2, they say in fundraising, it's all about the relationship, right? The relationship you have with the donor. Well, you know what? The structure of New Hampshire Gives with its peer-to-peer fundraising tool allows many more people to use their relationships to bring you funds. And so I have a lot of relationships, but with my peer network, I have, 20 times as many? And that's a really valuable tool to try to mobilize.
I am so glad you said that. The spirit of New Hampshire Gives is looking to increase the number of donors, and knowing that a gift of any size, I think it is the beauty. It's one of the things I actually love about New Hampshire Gives, that I can say to all of my friends, it's the easiest ask I've ever had. Please find a bunch of nonprofits or a nonprofit out of the 600 and give whatever you can give. And I love that you wrapped with that. Thank you. I'd love to turn it over to questions, and let us know if you've got someone specific you hope answers the question, great, or the panel will decide who's answering. All right, great. And if you could say your name and the organization
Yes.
you're with. Yeah.
Jim LaBelle, I'm at Amherst Land Trust in Amherst, New Hampshire. I just had a quick, when Lori was talking about doing all the posts during the day, were you specifically talking about Instagram and Facebook posts, or was this, I was just wondering.
Well, we do send a rather lot of emails. Oh, sorry. We also send a lot of emails. You know, I try not to bug people with emails usually, but they know that during New Hampshire Gives, you know, we get excited, and I might send out maybe 3 emails during the day. But mostly it's Facebook and Instagram posts.
I just want to make sure it wasn't like the New Hampshire Gives page was being changed all the time.
No.
Another question. Over on the other side of the room.
You running?
And I'd love to know, for those of you that are watching online, we know you have questions, so please share them.
Hi, my name is Ashley Tarian, and I'm with Avalon Farm Music Institute in Boscawen, New Hampshire. Rick, I've got questions for you because I'm a big fan of peer-to-peer fundraising. So my questions are, 1, how many people did you have peer-to-peer fundraise for you? Actually, I have 3 questions. 2, about about what were their goals? Is it like, I can raise 500 for you, I can raise 1,000? And did you ask them if they would also consider matching?
Great questions. My guess is last year we probably had a list of 15 peer-to-peer fundraisers, and probably half of them really delivered.
Yeah, that sounds about
Yeah,
right.
you know, and a lot of them just, yeah, okay, but no, they didn't do much. And that's disappointing, but, you know, expected. And I wasn't on the phone pushing and pulling and not, you know, some of our board members even just kind of sat back. And so do more, be better at it than I was. And yeah, I usually fail to have a discussion with them about their personal goal. With some of them that I know are going to be into it, we'll talk about it. So it's going to be 1,000 this year or 2,500 bucks this year. With the people I know are not likely to be very excited about, I might put 500 bucks or even 200 bucks, so that they feel like it might be attainable. They may never even see it, frankly. I want to be inclusive and try to inspire people, but you know, the more successful you are at that part of it, the larger your outcome will be. Is that helpful?
Yeah, did you ask them to also match?
I'm doing that this year. This year I'm trying to build a match pool from my former board members. And I'm going to ask them to give at least 250 bucks to create the match pool and to be a peer-to-peer fundraiser and go out and use their connections that way. And I hope that'll work. I'm not sure yet. I haven't got the cash.
Lori, can you also walk through the details on how many peer-to-peers, if they had goals, and if you asked for matches as well from them?
I was afraid you were going to ask that question.
Okay, around, maybe
I
yes.
think we had 10 to 12 peer-to-peer, it was families.
We've heard a lot of surprises with these numbers, so it's a useful.
Yeah, and there were, a couple that only made $500, but a lot of families brought in, $10,000, $12,000, so, yeah, it's good. I think, I'll go back and look, but I remember being very impressed. In fact, I have a number, I think. It'll take me a second. I'll give you this number later, but I think I have the number of how much money we raised through peer-to-peer.
Well, it's great to know, though. That's a lot of peer-to-peer. I'm curious to know what the most you've ever seen.
44,566 from peer-to-peer.
Almost all of our donations come through the peer network.
Wow.
Almost all of them.
Wow. You had 3 questions. Was that number 1 or was that all 3?
That was all of them.
Okay, great. Are there any questions from our online viewers, Deborah? Or yes? Okay. She's going back with the mic. I want to hear from people online. Julie, you better have a question. How are you watching?
So we had one user who wanted to talk a little bit about, I'm going to scooch this way, about events. Like, did you have any events during your NH Gives Day, and how did this work out?
We had a kickoff party about a week before at a restaurant that does, they give you so much % of their proceeds for the night. So it was the community oven in Epping, and we had a kickoff party, which we were able to post about in Facebook and Instagram. So that was another way to say, we're getting ready for New Hampshire Gives, we're having this kickoff party. It was just another thing to post. So we had that, and then we always have a board party afterwards because we're so exhausted. But
Wonderful.
We haven't done anything like that, but it's not a bad idea, just for the reasons you mentioned, Laura. It's a great chance to talk about the campaign as it's looming. You have some kind of a gathering beforehand, and we might combine that with, we're supposed to be doing sort of a VIP donor event in June that's just coming together, and it might be a way to talk about New Hampshire Gives at the same time as fulfilling that obligation too. So this is good to hear. Thank you.
Jeff, earlier you talked about being opportunistic with the drone flyer, and so I think we just saw that real time. Hey, wait a minute, there's a donor event that we might have. That sounds like a pretty good idea because we get content. It's an idea happening right before our very eyes, which is pretty cool.
And we have done that after the event Zoom call for anybody who wants to join. Anybody who made a donation gets the link and they can join. And we've had very few people actually do that, but it's still kind of nice. It's never big. I would love it to be big, but it's nice.
Wow, that's a really wonderful way to inspire someone to get now. Okay, guess what? I want to be on that Zoom call.
Yeah.
So
Maybe.
Yeah. Huh. Are there any other questions from online or? Oh yes, up front. If you could say who you are and the organization you're from.
Yeah, I'm Bill Burchard, also with the Amherst Land Trust. I'm just wondering, you typically have board members who really don't want to ask for money, and any advice on how approaching, maybe meeting their objections somehow, to coaxing them into being more enthusiastic about that?
Well, Mary Jo said it's the easiest ask ever because they can do it online, right? Ultimately, your potential donors need the link. And so you're going to send them the link online, and if they're embarrassed to ask face-to-face, at least they can send an email around. It's a much lighter ask than saying, come with me, we're going to sit in their living room.
And I also say you can also say, just post something on Facebook. You have a bunch of friends on Facebook. All you have to say is, I love this organization and they're participating in New Hampshire Gives. You're not saying, please go give. So there are different ways to do that. And one of the things that was an issue when we first started New Hampshire Gives, people were like, well, I don't want to ask my donors again. They already gave at the end of the year. And so anybody who's thinking that, don't ask them to give. Ask them to support you. So say, we're doing this, you gave us such a generous gift. We hope that you can let your friends know how much you love this organization. Chances are they're going to watch New Hampshire Gives and they're going to give. But you didn't ask. So that's just another little tip.
Yeah, great tip.
Other questions?
Thank you so much to all of you. Oh, you got one more. Okay. I thought we
Sneak
were.
one in.
Yes.
I'm Miranda Lane. I'm the executive director at Bridget's House of Hope. So not that this is where we're coming from per se, but if someone were to jump on this train awfully late and be super new, again, not saying that that's me, it's a friend, right? It's always a friend. What would you say is the one thing that we should focus on? I mean, I'm a planner, so I love the idea of setting that up for next year and making notes for strategy for next year. But if we're going to start tomorrow, what do we do to lay a foundation to be successful in the future?
Well, if you think you can do this, I would just get your Facebook and Instagram posts and your emails out and just do that this year. To say, we're participating in New Hampshire Gives this year. It's really exciting. Here's our mission, and you can support us. It's really easy to do. So, you don't have time for the kickoff party or the, videos and things like that, but you can certainly just tell all your constituents that you're doing this. And I think you'll be really surprised.
I'll chime in and say, if you're open to doing what we do, which is to try to use the organizational match as the main driver, it's not too late to see if there's anyone who you anticipate contributing. Ask them now if you'd like to help us in an even more important way. You could provide us the funds in terms of a match. And I want to mention one thing about this too, is that we've been fortunate. We've always made our matches, but what if you don't make it? You have to be upfront with the donor. We take this seriously. We're not just going to say, we'll take your money and then pretend it's a match or whatever. It has to be set in escrow, essentially, and you return to them anything that doesn't get matched. And we haven't had to do that. Who knows, we may this year, but if we do, we're prepared to do that. So just so you're aware. But if there's somebody, it could be as a small amount of money. It could be hundreds of dollars, which is not an enormous figure, is it? But at least that's something to talk about and to share and to get people excited about, and possibly get some people to say, well, I think that's a good way for me to contribute to Bridget's House of Hope. Is that right? Did I get that right?
I was thinking the same thing, go for a small organizational match, just to learn how the match works.
I was in your place 5 years ago. I came to this event. It happened to be at Energy Park in Manchester, and it was about an hour and a half into it when I think I asked Kathleen, what the hell are they talking about? I had no idea. I mean, I knew I needed to be there, but I had no idea what New Hampshire Gives was. It was totally unprepared, and we started. We didn't do a lot, but we started. And it didn't cost us anything. We didn't fail. We started, and we began building our mailing list. So go ahead. You can't lose. You just can't lose.
I have a comment over here. Before I let her talk, I'm just going to say, do not endorse what she's about to say. Hi, I'm Holly West from Friends of Mascoma Foundation. And I have to admit, I had a friend in 2016 who only found out about New Hampshire Gives about 2 weeks before it started. And this very close friend of mine, even though there wasn't a lot of time for planning, we did some social media posts, sent some emails. Our board members talked to friends and family. We just said, everyone should just, let 5 people know. And we just kind of wung it. I mean, my friend wung it, not me. And it wasn't perfect, but it was fine. And essentially, we kind of considered it our launch pad for the next year. We figured out what kind of worked for us and what really did not. So even if you don't have a lot of time, it's not the best way, but it is your launch pad. Like, you can use that as an opportunity to get your feet under you and know what you want to do or not do the next year.
Yeah.
We have a question from the virtual audience.
Hi, any advice on what people who are organizations that don't have a ton of contacts, how they can manage a campaign if they don't have a lot of contacts?
Well, start small. That's what, I mean, you start with what you got. Know that if somebody is going to the New Hampshire Gives website, and they type in, they will see, they can pick from categories. They can pick from, they will see, can ask for a list of all the refugee-related web organizations, or all the music, or land trusts, and they will see them all, and you might find new contacts that way. People might see you who had never heard of you before, but they can find your page through that list and maybe give you a gift. So, but ultimately, if you're small, you're starting small, period.
The other thing I would suggest would be, if you have a church or a club or something that you belong to, some, choir, I don't care. See if you can get those people to support you. Just say, just this year, could you guys help me with this? Maybe not make them do peer-to-peer, but at least tell their friends, post things, that kind of thing. That's how you start your base.
My friends and family know this deal because I do turn to them first and regularly, asking them to share posts. Again, I love that Deborah said you don't need to ask them for money. You can say, please spread the word, and that's an easy ask.
Any other questions?
Oh, one more up front, and we'll wrap soon. I know that we...
Just real quick, we've been talking a lot about the matching, but one thing I remember from listening to public radio asks is like, say if you've got a match of $1,000, you're not necessarily looking for somebody to come up with $1,000 to get that match, right? You can say for the next hour, every donation is going towards this match of $1,000.
Right.
Correct?
Absolutely, and try to be realistic about, I think what you're hearing from most of the panelists is try to be realistic about, can you match it in that amount of time, or will it take more time to do that? Because, as Jeff said, the match money, if it's not matched.
And you can do not just a 1-to-1 match, you can also do a 2-to-1 match. So if they give $10, $20 from the match gets applied, and you can do a 3-to-1 match. So if you're worried about it going too slowly, you can up it and kind of be
great.
Yeah, in terms of the language, it's like the default phrase that I seem to have in my mind is, up to, right now, your contributions will be matched up to a total of $20,000, which kind of says you don't have to give us $20,000, but any amount you give us is going to be added to this. And we talk openly about making the match. You're going to help us make the match, or max out the match is often another phrase that gets thrown around a lot as we try to create excitement in the day of giving.
The other thing I just want to say is if you have a donor who's donating money for matching, and you get to the end of New Hampshire Gives and you didn't get matched for all their money, I bet you they're going to donate the money anyway. Just saying.
Yeah.
Well, I would be careful about that, because we make it clear that we will return your money that doesn't get matched. And we do say that if it's ultimately your decision if you want to fulfill your original obligation and give it to us separately, but we can't tie it. It's not like you can't do that, or else you end up losing credibility. It's like, oh, you're going to get the money anyway, so it becomes like a fake match, which you really don't want to have even the appearance of that. We've been fortunate, we've never had to do that, but we're prepared to if we have to, and make sure people know, well, we didn't make the match fully, but we did pretty well. But we haven't had to say that. We've been able to say we've been successful.
If you really think through what the dollar amount is though, just the approach that I've seen the nonprofit I work with take is they allocate a smaller part of, they start with the $10,000 knowing that if they meet that match and looking at the pacing, like I feel like it would be great for organizations to set themselves up for success as opposed to not meeting the match, to set a very realistic match and beat it. I think it would feel better. It's a success story then,
Yeah,
even if it's a smaller figure.
yeah, we're trying to grow ours. I will say one other thing is that I'm not sure if this is even doable on New Hampshire Gives, but the other way a match can be done is a winner-take-all kind of match where we have to make 10,000 in order to get the 10,000 that was promised us.
Yeah, that's called a challenge.
Okay, yeah, I would shy away from that because it could go badly.
You want to hit a smaller.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's useful in some, like if you're doing a lot of smaller things and keeping excitement going, but we've tended to just stick with one simple, here's the deal, folks.
People tend to use the challenges for number of donors. So
Okay,
if we get
yeah.
100 donors, it'll unlock
I can see that,
this amount of
yeah.
money. So that's a more common way of using that.
We should wrap. We're 5 minutes over.
Lunch is
Yes.
here.
And thank you again to all of the incredible panelists for their wisdom.
I just wanted to let folks know who are here with us that the sandwiches are all labeled. The hearty hummus sandwich is vegan, and also Shane from Northeast Delta Dental, who coordinates the use of the room, left some cards over here if anyone is interested in exploring that opportunity.
Great.
Enjoy lunch.
Wow. Lori, next to
Together we give, together we stand. Together we give a helping hand. Together we give, together we stand. Together we give a helping hand. Together we give, together we stand. Together we give a helping hand. Together we give, together we stand. Together we give a helping hand. Together we give, together we stand. Together we give a helping hand. Together we give, together we stand. Together we give a helping hand. Together we give, together we stand. Together we give a helping hand. Together we give, together we stand. Together we give a helping hand. Together we give, together we stand. Together we give a helping hand. Together we give, together we stand. Together we give a helping hand. Together we give, together we stand. Together we give a helping hand. Together we give, together we stand. Together we give a helping hand. Together we give, together we stand. Together we give a helping hand. Together we give, together we stand. Together we give a helping hand. Together we give, together we stand. Together we give a helping hand.
Raucous conversation and people making new friends and getting new connections. But alas, it is time to call up our second panel and get started. We did have a cancellation for our panel, but Lori has generously agreed to come up again because she has so much knowledge about New Hampshire Gives. So she is joining Ellen and Holly. If you guys want to come up, and then I will let Mary Jo take it away. Any questions that popped up during lunch?
I just have a random question, why Tuesday and Wednesday were chosen for New Hampshire Gives?
Oh, that's a good question. Why were Tuesday and Wednesday chosen for New Hampshire Gives? The first year that we did it, we chose Tuesday and Wednesday at random, and we've never changed it. So that's just why. We talked with Give Gab and their experience of giving days, and they feel like the most successful days happen on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So, any other questions? All right, Mary Jo, are you ready?
Absolutely.
Take it away.
I want you to know before you cut into the cake, I did take a picture of it. For those of you that are only online, the cake was wonderful. So, welcome to panel number 2. Panel number 1 focused on getting ready for New Hampshire Gives. Panel number 2 is focused on the execution, the day of New Hampshire Gives. I neglected to introduce myself, reiterate, my name is Mary Jo Brown. I am from Portsmouth, New Hampshire. I own Brown & Company and Big Brown Books, a design firm and a publishing company on the seacoast, and I, as Deborah said, am a huge fan of New Hampshire Gives and have been involved in it, not only in its big rebrand that happened and helping to shepherd it into its growth with Kristen Oliveri from the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation, but now I'm on a board of a very small animal rescue nonprofit that is participating, so it's really fun to be part of New Hampshire Gives from both sides. We're going to use a very similar structure for this panel. Our first 2 panelists will introduce themselves, tell us who they are, the organization that they're from, and a little bit about their relationship with New Hampshire Gives. I have promised Lori that we will call on her a little less in this go-around, but we do all know she has more to share. We could just tell. So first, Ellen, I loved reading about you, and I actually ended up diving into your personal fiddling site. as well. So Ellen, please introduce yourself and tell us about New Hampshire Fiddle Ensemble.
Yeah, so New Hampshire Fiddle Ensemble is a community orchestra, so to speak. We teach people of all ages. Our youngest this year is 9, our oldest is 90, and we teach them music by ear to help them learn how to play with each other. All kinds of music. We're focused on learning the traditional way of learning by ear, but we also teach all styles of music, from bluegrass to, we're doing a French song this year, to Celtic, and singing songs and all kinds of things like that. Our goal is to bring in people of all different levels, ages, and abilities. We have a woman who's taught at the Goffstown as their string teacher and went to school in France, and she's in the ensemble playing with somebody who just started 2 years ago. And we offer different levels of parts. And the real goal is to build community. So we do that. We have 7 community smaller groups that learn the music by ear. We provide over 300 files to people to help them learn, and we also do rehearsals, and then we all come together right around now. We do 2 large rehearsals, and we have our first concert starting tonight, actually. So we do 6 concerts from May to June. And yeah.
How many years have you been doing New Hampshire Gives? And give us a sense of how it went for you last year.
Yeah, so we've been in existence for 15 years, but we only have been a nonprofit since 2021, and we kind of became a nonprofit too late to be in New Hampshire Gives that year. So we've been in it for 2 years, and we are a very bare bones organization. We have 2 people who run the organization. We're both part-time. We both teach ourselves fiddle lessons 20 to 35 hours a week, and we run this organization at the same time. So we became a nonprofit so we could become a little more sustaining, and also to increase our ability to expose this type of learning to kids, and because the music is something you can do for your lifetime, and you can play with all different kinds of people. So the first year we did New Hampshire Gives, we did pretty well. We raised $7,000, and we had 77 people donating. And that was this is our concert season, so we have the opportunity to promote what we're doing during our concert season. So here's our program, and here's a little call out to New Hampshire Gives in here. We put the logo and we say, donate, and so we can do that. We also say something on stage about New Hampshire Gives. But we also partner with other nonprofits. For example, we've been partnering with the New Hampshire Children's Trust, and because we were for-profit, no, not really for-profit, we were an organization for 13 years, and one of our goals is to help other organizations promote themselves through our concerts, because we do concerts to 250 to 350 people, and that gives organizations a lot of exposure. And so we give the New Hampshire Children's Trust, for example, $1 of each ticket sold. For each concert we work with them, and we've worked with other organizations, but right now that's the organization that we're working with the most, because we're used to that, but we're willing to work with other organizations too. Anyway, and then the second year we got the hang of it, and we raised, $15,000, and we had 120 people donating. I will say that we really want to do this peer-to-peer thing. We have a great opportunity, because we have this year we have 146 members of the New Hampshire Fiddle Ensemble who pay to be in the ensemble, and that's a great group of people to become peer-to-peer fundraisers. But we tried last year, and it was not that easy, we have to say, to set that up. It was not, it was confusing. But we use peer-to-peer, so we got all the peers together, and we got them helping us out through various other means. Like we have jam sessions the night of New Hampshire Gives, and between Melissa, who runs the ensemble with me, and myself, the Tuesday night of New Hampshire Gives last year, we both had a jam session, and that's the night we got our $500 bonus, because we had the most unique donors during that time, because we were doing it during our jam sessions, and it was making a good time out of it.
Bring them in with the music.
Yeah.
Leveraging that opportunity.
So.
Well, we'll hear more from Ellen. And I want to say that the Friends of the Mascoma Foundation are legendary. This is a legendary panel member we have up here, even though Holly West perhaps said she was asking for a friend during the first year they participated. Holly, tell us about your participation in New Hampshire Gives and a little about the Friends of Mascoma Foundation.
So Friends of Mascoma Foundation is still a very small nonprofit. So New Hampshire Gives is our big fundraiser for the year. What we do is we have a mission to bring educational opportunities to students within the Mascoma School District. And that's comprised of 5 different towns. We have Canaan, Dorchester, Enfield, Grafton, and Orange. They are all pretty small, so even with 5 combined towns, the schools don't have a large number of students. We're also in an area that has relatively high poverty, so that is important to know for our organization because the things that we do through our mission can help bring equity to students who might not have the same opportunities as the other kids who have, more financial means. So our big programs are, we have a student scholarship program, and that's where we award scholarships to graduating seniors. We're lucky enough through our success with New Hampshire Gives, to date we've given over $100,000, which has helped a number of kids get to college who wouldn't otherwise have been able to. The scholarships aren't only geared to college, it's basically any form of education. Are you doing an IT certificate program? Fantastic, well, we want you to apply. Are you going to cosmetology school? Also wonderful, we want you to apply. The trades, it can be an associate's, really anything. We want people to apply, we want to give away money to help people learn more. Then our second program is mini grants. They're really geared toward the educators in our school district. However, if somebody from facilities has something really cool that they want to do that's outside of the normal operating budget, we want to help fund that too. So our funds have helped bring in authors, artists in residence, funding trips to Washington, D.C., New York, helping the French and Spanish Club. It's, all about getting the kids engaged and able to do these activities and, take advantage of opportunities they might not otherwise be able to. And then in conjunction, we have a food pantry. When we started the organization, we found out that teachers were experiencing a lot of kids who were hungry. It is very hard to be on task, to have a nice demeanor, and actually retain information when you're hungry. So we decided to help tackle that a little bit too, and we help out with a food pantry in the high school that's accessible by the middle school as well, and then provide some snacks to the elementary schools, as well as having a public pantry where anyone who resides in the Mascoma district can come get, a hand up and 3 days emergency food supply once per week. So,
real quick, what is your operating budget, and what did you earn last year in New Hampshire Gives?
So our operating budget is fairly small. I should know the number off the top of my head because we just did a budget review. I want to say it was around 150. We have a decent number of in-kind donations, so it's not, cash. Through USDA and the New Hampshire Food Bank, we're able to access a lot of free food, so that kind of, skews numbers a little bit because of, the volume of food. We're also lucky enough that our office space in our food pantry is donated, so there's no rent or utilities. So there's a lot of in-kind value from that as well. Last year, well, maybe I'll start with our first year we did New Hampshire Gives was 2016. We had 24 donors, and we raised $5,846.18, and we won a $500 prize, which is included in that. And then last year, we've really seen a strong uptick. We had 484 donations. We had 2 prizes that totaled $3,250, and also some matching donations. So we were really pleased with that. Just to see the jump. A lot of it for us isn't necessarily, the dollars are important, but seeing the climb in the donations and the general support and the building of community is what has been the most rewarding for us.
I hope that you heard that. From 2016 to 2023, they started with 24 donors and they are now at 484 donors. That's incredible. What did the math add up to again last year? What was the total?
Oh, you know, I didn't write, I wrote our gross amount. I didn't write our total from last year. It was 60 something, I think.
60?
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's compare those numbers. For all of those that are just starting out with New Hampshire Gives, in 2016, a little between $5,000 and $6,000, $5,800 and change, and now last year, $60,000. So
I did also pull our gross amount that we raised since 2016.
Yes.
I just thought that was interesting. So we've raised over $242,000 from New Hampshire Gives, which to me is kind of proof that if you have a friend who doesn't start ahead of time the first year, you can still be successful. And you know, our net from that was $234,000, almost $235,000. $7,000 of that has been in fees. So, you know, if you're looking at the fees and you're not really sure what to do, many people do give those, but like, it still has a lot of value to participate, even if you're worried about that aspect.
Thank you for continuing to remind us, for all those other folks with friends in the audience and online. And I want to say welcome again to Lori McIntosh from Our Place. So Lori is going to be here and will be participating, but she doesn't need to introduce herself again. All right, are you okay with that? All right, so Ellen, I would love to go back to you and really ask a few more questions, even before we talk about day of, which that's what this part of the panel number 2 is about. You did not use organizational matches or peer-to-peer fundraising. And yet you jumped from a yield of $7,000 to $15,000. So just could you tell us how that worked? Remind us, was it just a fiddling event that got?
Well, that was a good part of it, but a lot of it is we kind of did peer-to-peer. We just didn't formally do it because we couldn't figure out the formally part of it. And so we really worked our membership, our people who participate in the ensemble, but also got our board members seeking donations and getting people to donate directly. And you know, we promote it during our concerts, and we have it on our website. We have the New Hampshire Gives logo. We have the New Hampshire Gives logo on our website all year round, actually.
Oh,
so
did you hear that?
So we left the last year's one up until we got the new information for this year, and then we put it up there. Because, again, we're a small organization also. We don't even have any full-time employees. We don't even have a location that we have. You know, we work out of our homes. We had a $90,000 budget last year, and we raised about 17% of that came from New Hampshire Gives. But we also got, you know, some money after that from, you know, what happened when people don't quite get their stuff in time for New Hampshire Gives. And before that, because people give us money when they come to our shows, they donate to us. So just around that time. But I mean, we felt that was pretty good. And the best thing I think about New Hampshire Gives for a organization that doesn't have a lot of time or money or to have any big, you know, whatever thing to keep track of all these donors is the New Hampshire Gives keeps track of all the donors for you. They keep track of all the donors. They give you a nice spreadsheet. You can manipulate an Excel spreadsheet. You can use it. We can keep track ourselves. We can put it in our information, and it just makes our lives easy because we don't have to do all that work. It's huge to us, yeah.
Does everyone know that that's an incredible benefit of New Hampshire Gives? You know, that all of that data collection is happening behind the scenes? Yeah, thank you.
Huge.
Someone's saying thank you for collecting all that data. We know it's there, all right. And again, before we dive into day of, is there anything else about matches, organizational matches, and or setup that any of you would like to share? Lori.
Yeah, I just realized we never really nailed down the answer to the question earlier in the day about the board match. And so we decided last year, we asked our board members for basically as much as they could give for New Hampshire Gives, and we ended up with a $6,000 board match. And that was a good amount, we felt, and then it was something that we could use. I think we used it on day 2, to kick off day 2 with the board match, and that's just one way that people can see that you have skin in the game, that your board members are contributing to. So,
What made you go to day 2? So this is really important, thinking about orchestration. Walk us through how you got to day 2.
Day 1, we had more of the larger matches, and we wanted, and that's when I think, you know, a lot of people get right on there at 5 o'clock. Well, actually, no, I'm wrong. I think that's when we did our board, I think that's when we did our board match, because it's a shorter period of time. And then the next day, we had our bigger match in the morning, so it would go all day.
So as you're thinking about planning, you know you've got this 5 o'clock kickoff, and you know, I always like to say, make sure you're there 3 minutes before the 5 o'clock kickoff, right? And then you know that at some point in the evening, it sort of peters out, the pacing of giving. People actually sleep, except for those of us who are totally addicted to watching the ticker tape. And then we know the next morning, there's sort of another swell of interest. And maybe toward the end of the day, we see another uptick. Of course, you all know, if you don't know yet, the other wonderful news is that even though technically New Hampshire Gives is over, the giving, you can get donations. I think the matching part is over, but you can still give donations to organizations after it's technically closed, which I have always loved, knowing that it's open for a little bit longer, just because the total amount of giving can still rise.
And when is that? That closes at 5 o'clock the next day, is it, or is it midnight?
Yeah, all right, Deborah's gonna answer this.
Midnight on Friday.
Okay, so that's super top secret information. And let me tell you something, do not broadcast that widely. Here's why. New Hampshire Gives is all about creating urgency, getting those matches, and giving together. However, keep that in your back pocket. And I just love, I love that about it. It's like, brings me down off this excitement at a slower pace, because I'm so addicted to watching the tick.
One more thing about timing.
Yes.
I guess I do have things to say.
Yes.
So we put the New Hampshire Gives logo on our main page of our website, so that if somebody doesn't know where to go and they're looking, they go to our website and there's New Hampshire Gives, and they click on it and it takes them to the New Hampshire Gives website. But we don't activate it until 5 o'clock on Tuesday, because we don't want people giving before 5 o'clock. So before that, you know, it just isn't active. But you got to remember to turn it on, because one year I was horrified. After, you know, back when you had to win most of your prizes by getting in at exactly 5 o'clock, and we missed it because I didn't have the website hooked up. So.
Oh my gosh.
One thing.
Oh, I heard, okay, somebody else did that. Everyone pay attention. Good tip.
We didn't do it.
Okay, loud and clear.
One thing that we learned that's been helpful is your administrators on GiveGab can log in and see where your donations are coming from. You know, if somebody is Googling it, if they're coming in through your social media, or a direct link, and that can be incredibly helpful, because you might think like, wow, I am really killing it with my social media this year, and maybe your insights are showing you are. But then you look, and the people who are reacting are different than the people who donated at that point, and they're coming in through Google, which means that something else you're doing is effective. And if you can figure out what it is and kind of try to correlate, and that isn't always the case. I've noticed that a couple of our board members come in by Googling New Hampshire Gives Friends of Mascoma Foundation, which is also fun. It makes it, you know, it can be entertaining, and it could be, you know, data that's useful to help, you know, capture the people that you know are receiving your communications but haven't acted yet.
So I am going to switch it over to the day of, okay? Imagine you've done all your planning, and here it is. You've made sure it's up, it's turned on. Okay, we heard that. Show up early, turn it on. What happens the day of? Here are some of the questions I'd like you to think about. What does the actual day of look like? Are you all, who's on social media? Are you on the phone? Are you emailing? How busy are you as organizations? How hands-off are you? How much staff time do you need to allocate to this during the day of, or board time? How do staff and board stay in touch throughout the day? What data are you what data are you looking to collect and keeping an eye on? Do you have any other Slack channels set up, text strings set up? How do you, again, I think we should continue to talk about how you post and offer additional challenge matches or communications throughout the day. So day of, what does it feel like? What does it look like? Anyone?
For us, even though the giving doesn't start at 5 p.m., everyone's pretty much raring to go in the morning. Our board in general is very active with it, so the text groups, they really start flying around. Reminders to, if you've tasked your board with, we ask our board to each ask 5 people to donate. In general, people will do more, but we feel like 5 is reasonable for everyone. So making sure everyone's on board with that, has planned, and just, most of all, has their plan for where they're going to be at 5 p.m. and, when they're going to start really hitting on, I've already followed up with this person on when they're donating. If they haven't done it by this time, here's my plan for when I'll check back, and that sort of thing. So even though it doesn't start at 5 p.m., you'll notice a lot of activity if you've gotten good engagement from your volunteers, your donors, and your board, leading up to the day.
So how many board members, how many additional team members, and that's a pretty high level of communication to say, yes, I followed up with this person. I mean, that's like high communication. How are you communicating with each other?
There's some email, there's, we have text groups going on, there's phone calls. Everyone communicates quite a bit differently. Facebook Messenger group in some cases. I'm not as strong with social media, so I watch the leaderboard a lot, and the way I contact the people I'm asking is usually in person, via text or an email. So then I just kind of report in. We do have a decent number of peer-to-peer fundraisers. I always have my own profile set up, but I'm admittedly bad at sending out my own link. So my donors usually end up under our main page. So pro tip, if you're a peer-to-peer fundraiser, remember to use your own link. I would say, pretty much any and all forms of communication. One of the benefits of being in a small community is that you run into people who are your donors and supporters. So you might be getting gas and you see someone you've already communicated with and be like, remember, New Hampshire Gives is tonight at 5 p.m. Looks like you're getting gas to go home. Get on your computer, right? So it's easy to engage when you see people in passing at school pickup, at school drop-off, extracurricular activities, and that sort of thing. So we do any and all.
I hope you're hearing something loud and clear. Holly is saying, well, I'm not really a social media person. She is literally getting people to email, call, or in-person ask. Yes, it's an online giving day. Yes, it's an online giving platform, but guess what? That is old-fashioned style fundraising. I mean, that is like reaching out, staying connected, and what a great excuse for all of you to ask as many people as you can to contribute in any way you can.
I shouldn't downplay our social media presence. I'm just the one who's awful at it. So usually my sister Katie, has been on our board and was our interim executive director, and she is really, really good at it. So she'll like poke me and she'll be like, dude, I posted something and you haven't shared it yet. So she'll give me the prompts and our group of the prompts as well. So it is, the old-fashioned techniques are wonderful for a lot of people, but if you have someone in your corner that can handle the social media, yes. Facebook, Instagram, everything, definitely leverage their skill set if it's not yours.
I love that someone earlier said, make friends with some millennials, right?
Yeah.
Who likes social media? Who can really fill that role the day of? The day of, for the nonprofit that I am part of, we start a text string with all the board members, and it gets incredibly competitive because our fearless leader likes to make it competitive with us. So that keeps us going and keeps us in touch. let's hear more from Ellen on the day of.
Yeah, so we have a constant contact email, like newsletter, and we have, all the people who've donated to us before on New Hampshire Gives, plus all the people who've come to our concerts. And we send out a constant contact thing that morning saying New Hampshire Gives is ready to start. And then, we have not a text string, but through our board, that's one of your motivators is to get all your board members to contribute, and then we continually keep our board up to date, make sure they're looking at the leaderboard, see how things are doing. The board is extremely important and it helps, get some of the bigger donations. But my sisters and mother and I start a Carlson family challenge, or whatever we call it, to anybody from the Carlson family to donate whatever they want to, and we send it out to my family and my extended family, and we get all those people because they're all big supporters of music. They understand how important it is for preventing isolation and all other kinds of health issues, and so we get all cousins and everybody else to donate $5, whatever, and a lot of them, that's all they give, but it still makes a difference. So
I love that everyone of the nonprofits that is up here keeps track of total dollars they earned and the number of donors they have. And looking at both those metrics is so important. I also love that Ellen just brought up email as in structured emails through a program. So whether you use MailChimp or Constant Contact, or you're just typing up an email. How many times, so I'd love to ask the group, emailing all of your stakeholders is a powerful tool. How many times do you do it throughout New Hampshire Gives? Sounds like you've got one that goes out ahead of time. Do any of you send multiples in the day? How does that work, the email?
We actually, to plug the nonprofit toolkit, the first year we participated, we basically, we took that and mimicked it, including the timeline. And then we've enhanced it and changed it over the years. So we do reminders beforehand so people know when it's going to start. We send one out, right at the beginning of it. So the people who tend to give at the first part, or, if they're not reminded, they might forget. And then we do periodic updates. Sometimes along the way, we'll have people who are, it gets competitive in our area as well. They'll get really excited to see where we're at, and they'll offer an informal match, and they'll be like, oh my gosh, you guys are almost at $10,000. If you can hit $12,000 in the next hour, I'll kick in another $1,000. So then in those cases, we may send out supplemental emails in addition to what we had already scheduled. And then we'll do reminders in the last couple of hours as well. So for the people who typically plan to do it at the end, they have a reminder because it's very easy to lose track of time.
Yeah, ours is about the same. And and sometimes we'll have reasons to, hey, there's some money left in this match and it's going to be done tonight, kind of thing.
So how many total is that in the giving?
I would say 3 a day for the 2 days, something like that.
Does that surprise anyone?
And then the other things that I wrote down here are, one thing, we talked about the, you send people to your own page, we were saying, and I'm terrible too, because, I just have so many, I just like, go to New Hampshire Gives and find our place and give, So what you can do is go to your database that they give you, and you can pull people into your page. Yeah. So I go through, during the day, I'm pulling people into my page that I know are my.
For every donation.
Well, the thing is, the way we do our thank you notes is we thank our own people. So that way, we've got a good record of who's my people versus these people. And the other thing is that for the, then you can see how much was raised, peer to peer, to make sure everybody's numbers are accurate too. So there's a little bit of that that's going on during the day. One thing we do is we assign roles during the day so that you've got your person on Facebook and Instagram, and you've got your person who's monitoring, and your person who's, so we have different roles. Our development person is usually on our Bloomerang with the CRM, whatever that stands for. It's your database that controls your membership. Anyway, she's usually going, hey, this guy gave last January and then he just gave now. So she's looking at, monitoring the gifts as they come in and seeing how they match up with our current database. I don't have time for that. And so we're also texting and calling our own donors. So if I see one of my friends donates, I text them or call them. If I know they're not at work, and say, hey, thank you. I mean, they're going to get a thank you note and they're going to get the formal gift acknowledgement too. But I want to let them know that I'm watching that day, and it's great. And I'm also on our New Hampshire Gives postcard. We have a phone number, so that if people have technical problems, they can call me.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm on the phone a lot with people. I tried to make a donation and I think I made 2 by accident, or I'm not sure it went in. Can you check and see if it went in? And anyway, there's quite a bit of that. So I mostly with older generation people. It's good to have a phone number for someone to call, because you don't want people saying, I tried to give to New Hampshire Gives, but I couldn't do it. You really don't want that.
Yeah, we can't underestimate this technology thing, huh? Well, and what I'm hearing is a whole lot of communication through a whole lot of channels. I guess that if I'm sensing a theme here with the success stories, it's that we've got to remember that boards and donors and stakeholders all use different channels to receive messages, and we somehow need to show up in all of them during that 24-hour period. Keep talking about day of, when you take breaks, what else happens. It's wonderful.
One thing that we found is that we have people who thrive at different times of day. I am an early riser, but then we have night owls. We also have some of our supporters who tend to wake in the middle of the night, whether to use the bathroom or something like that. So the people who we have that are stronger with the overnight, they in general will monitor, what's come in for emails, donations, and look at text messages or other forms of communications, because some of those people also have friends who wake up in the middle of the night and, on a whim are like, oh, I was gonna, it's 1 a.m., I was gonna make a donation now, but I can't figure out how to do it. So if you have somebody who's willing to be up and providing some sort of, support during the odd hours of the night, that can be beneficial, because, if you're getting a lot of phone calls during the day, if you're spreading out, the amount of help that you have to provide and through the whole 24-hour period, it could seem a little less daunting, or you might just feel exhausted.
One of the things I read about, Holly, and I'll start with you on this one as well, is that, and others have mentioned it already, I think, Ellen, you mentioned it, is this notion of playing with other nonprofits in the community to work as a team together. So, yeah, talk about that. I'd love us all to talk about that a little bit.
That's actually one of my favorite things. Each year before New Hampshire Gives, I come up with the budget of who, how much I'm going to give and who I'm planning to give it to, and then I leave a wild card spot for, quite often during these sessions I learn about a new nonprofit, and that might be who I choose to give to. But if leading up to that you can collaborate, we did over the years a poster that had 6 or 7 different organizations in the Mascoma area. We didn't have, competing missions. Some of them were very complementary, some of them dovetailed, but by raising the general awareness of, hey, let's bring money to the Mascoma region. Granted, Friends of Mascoma wants it, but anything that comes in the door to a local nonprofit really just benefits the community as a whole. It's more resources for everyone in your area. So by promoting them, they'll in turn, you might see some reciprocal giving. I'll give to organizations in our area, and then I'll look at our donor list and I'll be like, oh, that's really nice, they donated something back. And the reciprocal giving is also very beneficial, because everyone has a fantastic nonprofit, and if you can find a way, to lift other people up and share news about their organization, they're going to really view you as a team player and also want you to succeed.
I agree, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, again, we work with the New Hampshire Children's Trust, and kind of a joke that I have with them is that my mother always gives them more money than she gives to us. And, you know, it's just one of those things, you know, a lot of people look at music and, you know, oh, music, that's nice, it's a nice thing, it's not really needed. So I'm gonna give to the New Hampshire Children's Trust because they're really taking care of kids, even though, Mom, we're taking care of kids pretty well too. This is a, you know, there's a lot of isolated people out there and we're really creating community. But still, it's great, so it's great. So they get $500 from my mother and I get $100. All right, that's all right. We're getting everybody, you know, to contribute. So it's a good thing overall.
Rising tide.
Yeah.
Lori.
Yeah, I found the same thing. I just had fun. You know, I would personally donate to other nonprofits people that I know, whatever. And then, like you said, suddenly I look and they just donated back. It's kind of silly, but it really does help with that cooperation and makes it less competitive. Even though they're doing, you know, some of them have the same mission that we have. It's just, you know, we're all supporting each other. And then you'll find that they're sharing your social media posts and you're sharing their social media posts. And it just becomes, you know, everybody working together, which is really nice.
It's also how GiveGab has it, you know, shopping cart style. I'm hoping I'm not alone in the fact that sometimes when you're online shopping, you intend to get like a couple of things. And then something else really catches your eye, and before you know it, you spent like double, triple, quadruple what you intended. And there's going to be multiple boxes arriving instead of just one. The cart aspect in GiveGab has that same effect on me. So like I have my intended budget, but then I, you know, typically know that I'm kind of lying to myself. And you know, as you're scrolling through, you might find that you're add to cart. By the way, I did find out that there is a maximum add to cart, and then you have to do a second transaction, which is also fine.
Oh my God.
So, you know, it's as you're doing your reciprocal giving and planning, know that you're probably going to end up looking up other organizations, and maybe it's not right for you in that moment, but you aren't alone if you have an impulse moment and do more than you planned.
I always find myself looking for matches that haven't been met that will be unlocked by a certain gift. Like, I love just poking around to try to find those later in the day. That's a day of activity for me. Anything else day of that, Ellen, anybody can share? Yeah.
Well, we shoot out to our membership too. Like we'll say, all right, anybody who took a fiddle lesson today, donate. You know, or anybody who's, you know, who's planning to go, you know, whatever, hang out at the water with your fiddle. You know, send some money, whatever. We just do little things like that.
So you figure out how to create a new message during the day that attracts new interest or inspires a new wave of donations and or energy. I need to know how many people are in the Fiddle Jam, and is the board at the Fiddle Jam? How does that work?
Yeah, some of our, like Melissa's jam up in Biddeford, she had like 35 people there. I had my jam at my home, which was actually, I had to cut it off because it was 15 people.
So there's, okay.
And then during
it was sold
yeah.
out.
But then what
Sold out
happens?
jam.
What we did is like at a certain time we say, okay, it's 7 o'clock. Everybody now get on your phone or whatever and get some donations for us right now.
How many jams were happening during the?
Only 2 that
Okay.
evening. Yeah, only 2 that evening. But we could, you know, really get it going. But I like somebody's idea of like seeing if we can do it at a restaurant, and then that would give us some, yeah. So get some good ideas here today. It's awesome.
I think, you know, another thing that we've had good luck with during is we have a good number of peer-to-peer fundraisers because we've structured our scholarships now that students who have received them, you know, when they were graduating, they can set themselves up as a fundraising champion for us, and a portion of what they receive will be a subsequent scholarship. So, you know, if they've, out of the gate at graduation, they've received $1,000 in a scholarship, maybe they're really good with connecting with people and they can raise a couple $1,000s during New Hampshire Gives and get the same scholarship amount or more for a second year. And then their parents or, you know, their guardians are also kind of watching their progress and nagging them and be like, oh, it doesn't look like you checked in with your aunt and uncle yet. They would probably donate under your profile. So we're getting, you know, building support in multiple ways. So if you have a peer-to-peer fundraiser who has benefited from your organization, you know, leveraging that so they can get subsequent benefits can be helpful. And on the event side of things, we're also lucky enough that the senior awards night, when they get awarded their scholarships, always falls directly before New Hampshire Gives. It is always the Sunday night before the Tuesday of New Hampshire Gives. So we do shamelessly plug ourselves, and we say, you know, we wouldn't be able to give out this many scholarships or this much money if it wasn't everyone's support during New Hampshire Gives. And then at the end, you know, we've given out a lot of money tonight, now we're gonna need to replenish. New Hampshire Gives is just a couple days away. So if you have like a very tangible opportunity like that, definitely use it.
Gosh, there were so many practical, great tips. Okay, I have a different question. You may or may not have experienced this, but some of the nonprofits that are participating may have or will. What if you're underperforming? Has that ever happened to you where the day starts and it's not going well? And what did you do to pivot, adjust, accelerate? Will you say no? I mean, maybe that hasn't happened.
And we've had times where, you know, like my sister will have a very robust social media plan, scheduled posts, and then Facebook is throttling them. And we realize at times that, you know, normally we would be getting a good number of donations, we're not. Then having to adjust what we're doing to, you know, maybe more text messaging or phone calls or that sort of thing, or changing the structure of the posts a little bit so they're not getting throttled as much. And it can be frustrating because when you've planned ahead of time and, you know, you feel like you've got a really solid plan and it isn't working out, it is hard. But knowing ahead of time that something like that could happen allows you to pivot and adjust more easily.
I'm gonna go over to wrap-ups from each of you, unless there's anything else before the wrap. You still get to wrap up for this? Oh, you've got something else right now.
About that topic before we switch. Is I think it was 2022. I mean, we went 45, then we made 60, and then the next year it went down, and that was really surprising. But it turned out to be sort of a low year for everybody, I think, if I've got the years right. And so yeah, so we suffered through it, but it was disappointing. But it could happen. It could happen this year. You know, I don't know what the donor situation is like this year, and how it's going to work. So you just have to sort of just keep plugging along.
Yeah, manage your expectations somehow, but strive for success. Make realistic goals that are a little bit stretched, maybe. I had another question before we go to wrap. Do you think it's possible, this is another trick question like the sea of green was from the first, by the way, you passed, you got that green in your program. And I can't remember what my question was going to be. How do you like that? Oh my gosh, that's rare. All right, we're gonna go to wrap up and see if I remember my trick question. So I'd love for each of you to reflect on what your top 2 takeaways are for all of these participating nonprofit organizations that they should keep in mind as they are navigating the day of New Hampshire Gives. Ellen?
Well, I think to be active, to be engaged, and to get your support base engaged, so that they're with you and they're looking at the leaderboard too, and they're excited about you reaching your goal.
Wonderful.
I think my first one is just remember that it isn't only about the money. A lot of it is about building your community and building your support. You might have, you know, a year where you don't hit what your goal is, but then maybe you look at the number of subscribers on your MailChimp or your, you know, who's following you on Facebook or Instagram, and realize that you've had a spike with that. And so that building of community and that collaboration with your supporters can drive more success in the following year. And then my second one is related to that, but really be prepared to follow up and engage with your donors and supporters. After New Hampshire Gives, if they only hear from you one time, then they're probably not going to be interested next year. And, you know, say thank you early and often, because that's part of the engagement process, showing them what you did with their money and saying thanks for doing that, by the way, it was really awesome. Keeping up that engagement level is important.
I can only repeat the stay on it during the day. I think the year that we didn't do as well, I was also trying to get our boat ready to launch. And I thought I could go in and check the leaderboard and run out and paint the bottom and come back in and do something, and it wasn't good for me and it wasn't good for the situation. So don't think you can get anything else done that day. It's just better to stay focused.
That's good advice. I did remember what my trick question was in the meantime. So, remember, trick question. Do you think it's possible to over-communicate during the day of New Hampshire Gives? I'm being silly because I don't think you could over-communicate.
I think people know that that's what your goal is during that time.
I think to certain populations it is possible. Perhaps people who've already planned what they're going to give and the time in which they're going to give it. But kind of the great thing about communications and technology now is you can shut it off. So even if people feel like you're over communicating for the event, if they're not unsubscribing or stopping following you, then they know it's a 24-hour period that you're probably going to be bugging them. Most people have a tolerance for that. It's not year-round. So in general, I think you can't over-communicate, but the people who feel you do will tolerate it.
And Ellen, were you going to say something about that too? Any other thought? I just think you never.
I agree.
Yeah, you never have a reason. You never have a reason like this to communicate so regularly and with such urgency. Take advantage of that opportunity. If I'm a donor or a board member, I want to feel like I'm part of the day, like I'm part of what's going on. I'm excited to learn about how much more you've earned. I'm excited to watch the ticker tape. I'm addicted to the ticker tape. I'm addicted to also adding to cart. I do not ever want to find out what the maximum is. Okay, are you going to tell us? I have no idea what it is.
Well, I don't know if it'll be changed for this year, but I did find that last year you could add 10 organizations to the cart first.
Good to know.
Also, I hope my husband's not paying attention.
I'd love to see if there are any questions from the audience specifically related to day of, or if there are any questions online. Or comments and or questions are welcome. Yes, up in front. Can you remind us again your name and
Jim LaBelle, Amherst Land Trust. Holly mentioned something about Facebook throttling the number of messages. Can you say a little bit more about that? Explain how that works.
I'm not great at social media, so I don't know. I think it has something to do with their algorithms and, how nonprofits don't always get the best traffic from social media. They like people who are paying them for visibility. And, at one year we tried paying for an advertisement and we still, weren't really getting things. So if you find out that if you have a common tag in your posts and none of them are really getting engagement, you can play around with that. I think it's all algorithm based, and if Facebook or Meta is making what they want to make off of everyone. But yeah, not a social media guru, unfortunately.
Another question in the back.
Hi, I'm Brenna from the Colonial Theater in Bethlehem. One of you mentioned the importance of assigning roles on the day of New Hampshire Gives and kind of rattled off a few examples of what that might be. I'm curious to hear from each of you around specific roles that you assign your collaborators throughout the day.
It'd be great for everyone to answer this.
Yeah, and mostly my board members are the only ones I can ask to do things. And so I ask them to make sure they claim their own people and they're thanking people and things like that and following along. But that's it for that.
We have our board members assigned, to each ask 5 different people at least for a donation through whatever means works for them. We do like to make it easy, and it'll have like sample text. In addition to that, some board members might be assigned to tasks on top of it. we have somebody who does the majority of our social media. We have one board member emeritus. She opens up her guest house and allows us to meet there, so she provides the meeting place. One of our other board members who co-owns a business with me, his task is he calls, clients that he knows are philanthropic in nature and asks them for a donation and talks about, what we've been doing as an organization. And then we have past board members and other supporters who they're willing to post about, what we're doing on their social media, or, we've asked them to continuously share our posts to try to avoid the throttling. And then if we know there are people who are active in other groups, like, for example, my mom, she's very active in her church, and so her task is she coordinates with those members of the church to help bring donations in, because they're very supportive of our food pantry program. So it's we have a large number of tasks, and to be honest, we kind of have like a project plan with a column for tasks assigned and a standard operating procedure, because we're a bunch of nerds. And that makes it very easy, because you know who's doing what, and if someone is suddenly not available, then their task is pretty well outlined, so somebody else could slide in.
Yeah, we just have someone assigned all the time anyway to social media who was going to take care of that, and we have membership, so they are assigned to sharing as much of our social media as we possibly can get out, and also to get the word out. And then our board is just assigned to, everybody's got a little goal that they're supposed to try to reach at. And the goals for the board members are very different, because some board members are really uncomfortable, and to ask them to get $100 is a big thing.
I just butt in for a second. One thing that I learned from Mary Jo a few years ago was to get more mileage out of those social media posts that might be getting throttled, assign your friends and family to go in and like and share, because that will help with that. So the more people that you can get to share it, the more chance it's going to actually reach the audience that you want.
And I would do that by literally calling family members and saying, I have posted, I'm going to tag you, I need you to share it, I need you to comment, like, share. And one other thing I've seen happen is that there may be a board member who's a little more familiar with Instagram. There may be a board member who's more familiar with Facebook. There may be a board member who's very comfortable speaking on video. So I think playing to people's strengths, but then specifically giving them an assignment, you could literally say, you got to do all the tagging for the day, and that would be fine. Like tagging, it's a tagging game they have on social. That's incredibly important. So I love that they've been talking about, it's time, it's almost 1:30.
I just want to
the
jump in.
wrap-up whistle.
Yeah, I wanted to jump in about also, there's a lot of people out there, including like my brothers and a lot of people who come to our jams, that they don't want to put their name in anything. They don't barely have a credit card. They don't want any presence on media. And so like for Melissa's jam that she did, she got $250 around cash thrown in a bucket for us during New Hampshire Gives. Now that didn't go through New Hampshire Gives at all, but we got that money. And the same thing with my brother. He works for a company that puts up lights, traffic lights, and I'm bugging him this year, and it might happen that they're gonna just give us some cash this year because they don't want to do it. They don't want that presence. They don't want any name. They don't want nothing. But they're happy to give us some money. So we can't forget that good old fashioned cash.
One of the things our board did was the leader created a task of all of the specific planning items and day of items that needed to happen with New Hampshire Gives. Because it's pretty local giving, we decided to hand printed postcards out at the local dumps. And so because there was someone who, that was like a job that someone was willing to do. They could say, oh yeah, I'll stand there for 3 hours and I'll hand out these postcards. So it was a collaboration between figuring out how we promote the day of, and then lining that up with skill sets or access that certain people had. Someone else said, oh, I'm going to these towns, or I'll hang posters up in the, figure out who's willing to do what. But you've got to make sure you're clear on the list of to-dos and then align that with interest, skill sets, opportunities.
We have a question specifically for Ellen from one of our virtual guests, asking, as a fellow small nonprofit, what is your advice for getting started?
For New Hampshire Gives?
Yeah.
Just start. Yeah, I mean, the first year it was a lot. I mean, it was a lot the second year. Again, this whole peer-to-peer, I want to get that going, but we've got all these concerts we're working on and all this, you know.
You need to call me.
It's a busy time, yeah. So, but just get going, and we just get going, and we're done with the concerts June 1st, you know. New Hampshire Gives is what, 2 weeks later, and that's when we really try to get things going. I mean, we do planning ahead of time too, but right now we're not thinking about New Hampshire Gives except to announce it at the concerts. Yeah, you just got to do it. You just got to do it. Yeah.
I hope people are inspired by the approach that they take, primarily because she's saying some people don't want their names on there. Some people barely have credit cards that are going to give to us. No, we don't technically do the peer-to-peer matches, but you sort of do. It's just offline. I mean, that's impressive, just getting it done without needing to be signed up through all the technology or have all the bells and whistles in place. It's impressive.
Other questions?
I just have a comment, and we said it this morning, but I think you can't say it enough, is that people have to know the why. And you have to really get that out there with your giving page and your posts and things. I mean, so you have to be doing both things, saying, please give now, New Hampshire Gives, but then the next post should be, why are you doing this?
If there was ever a time for nonprofits to be clear about their mission and how to deliver their pitch, to understand who their audience is, how to connect with them, how to motivate them so you can express your impact and why people should care and contribute, it is during New Hampshire Gives. You have limited time to do your asks. They need to be clear, emotionally compelling, intellectually compelling, and concise. And for all those nonprofits that say, what we do is pretty complex, I would say, figure out how to make it not sound complex. I would beg to differ. Even though the most complex organizations that exist figure out how to communicate effectively and concisely about what they do and why it matters. If New Hampshire Gives does that for an organization, despite growing donors, despite earning dollars, I think it's an incredible win for participating nonprofits.
Great, thank you, everyone. Your option for asking questions is not over. You got one. I'm just going to say a couple things before we get to that one question. If you are not following the New Hampshire Gives Facebook and Instagram pages, please follow them. On top of getting good information there, there'll be things that you can share that's really easy. Like if you share this post, your donors will know a little bit more about what's going on. And then I will be hanging out here with my colleague Kelly until at least 2 o'clock. And if any of you want to hang out and ask more questions, talk to each other, feel free. Angelica, what's your question?
It's not a question.
Okay.
So I just wanted to roll off your point about following. So yeah, follow NH Gives on Facebook and on Instagram, but also tag. So the difference between a hashtag, everybody knows the difference between a hashtag and a tag. You know? So a tag is when you @ somebody, you @ and then you tag the organization. So you want to @ NH Gives on all your NH Gives posts, because that sends me a message that you've tagged us, and then I can share it and amplify your voices, right? So I can share it in our stories. So that's the @ sign. Hashtag is the number sign, the old number sign. So hashtag NH Gives will kind of broadcast it out to the larger world of what you're doing and where you're going. So my big advice is always @ us. so that I can see it and I can help share it and post it and amplify your voices.
Thank you. I did not know the difference between those two things. Other questions, comments?
Okay.
Yes, there is. It's in containers, but feel free to have some. Thank you all for being here. This is probably my favorite day of the year so far. Thank you to our panelists, all of them, the ones up there now, the ones that were up there this morning. Thank you to Mary Jo Brown for being here, being such a wonderful hostess with the mostest. And NHGives at nhnonprofits.org is how you can get in touch with me at any time, so don't hesitate to reach out. We have, you point at something?
Thank you, ConcordTV.
Oh, yeah. ConcordTV, you have been standing there the whole day. I'm like, wow, look at him, he's just standing. Thank you for making this live stream possible. I hope that we'll get some feedback from those of you that were on the live stream, because this is an experiment for us. This is the first time we've ever done it, and I want to know what it was like to not be in the room, but be in the room. I can't wait to get home and watch it. Is that kind of weird? But
That's awesome. Me too.
Okay, we'll be watching.
For people who couldn't come today?
Yes, it is recorded and it'll be on YouTube. It's on YouTube probably immediately right now. So we'll get the link to it on the New Hampshire Gives training page as soon as possible. Anything else? All right, if you need to go, I release you. If you... Have a great afternoon, everyone.
Nice to meet you guys.